Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, guess what?
I don't know. Do tell.
I've got some special guests with me this afternoon.
I did know that. But I'll let you have the honors of introducing not one but two guests to this episode here.
Two special guests. Henrique, our normal Marvel commentator.
A resident Marvel expert, of course, yes, and?
That's it. And we have another special guest, Isleen.
Hey, how you doing?
Very nice.
Hello there. Welcome to the podcast. First time on. We appreciate you joining us.
All right, guys. Let's do this one last time.
Did I mispronounce
So my name is Henrique Jaime. And I've been on this podcast for several episodes now.
And I still pronounce it wrong.
That's fine.
As I normally do. All names are wrong by me. I'm sorry.
I feel like it's customary for Andrew to just fuck up names, but
all names. Sorry.
No. Thank you both for joining us here. It's going to be fun. I think it's only the second episode we've ever done with four people on it. And interestingly enough, three out of the four people are actually sitting in the same room. I am the lone man on the other side. I'm on the right side of the country, but I'm several states north of where you are. So I feel a little bit left out, but I think we'll make do.
And we're doing some new hardware things here as well. So we'll see how it works out. Hopefully it all comes out very nice.
Yeah,
hopefully it does.
It sounds good to me right now. But on that note, I'm glad you brought that up. That hardware setup would not be possible if it were not for the generous donations of our supporters on Patreon. So we would like to extend a special thank you to our supporters on Patreon. We ended up, I think we got another microphone set up to add to your man cave collection there, so that way we have the ability to have some guests hanging out with you in person, joining us on the podcast. Like I said, unfortunately, I am many miles away. Otherwise, I would have loved to have joined them on the party. But no, thank you all for making that happen. It's actually kind of cool.
It's actually pretty fucking cool. Exactly.
So this week we are talking so many things related to Marvel. It is ridiculous. We have
Marvel episode.
We have a very special Marvel episode in store for our listeners. We're talking Marvel news, exclusively Marvel news at that, and we're talking a Marvel movie in the form of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I have to say, as a side note, I don't want to get too derailed right now, but I have been in a law school world. I had 2 weeks of basically like finals mode that I entered into, and I'm done with that now.
Shaking her head.
I'm drinking so many beers right now, and it's just heaven. I'm in heaven right now, and there was
How's
one
75-minute.
It is fantastic. As a side note, I'm drinking a Dogfish Head 75-minute IPA. First time I've ever had it, and I quite like it.
Dogfish Head loves to support things. Get them to be an official sponsor.
That's it. Holy shit.
That's a pretty good idea.
Beer? That sounds
pretty good
Oh,
idea.
I could get all the brownfish head ales, or however the order is.
Someone's had
Brownfish head.
Someone's had a few too many brownfish ales, I would say. Yes, no, but it's nice. We've been on hiatus officially. We put out our Patreon episode from Halloween like a month later than I kind of wanted to put it out, just because I've been so busy. It was hard to get everything kind of pushed out because, needless to say, my brain was focused in one very specific direction. And now that I have the capability of channeling my brain into things like movies and TV shows and Marvel and all that, I'm just like I'm on cloud nine right now. So I hope our listeners enjoy maybe this very elated version of myself. Maybe I'm more elated than normal. I don't know. I'm feeling good. Okay. Let's jump into some fun facts. Now, it's my understanding that Andrew, as per freaking usual, did not come prepared with a fun fact to the table this week.
No,
but
I'm always elated and unprepared.
But he's passing the buck to Mr. Henrique. Is that correct?
I got something for y'all. Related to the movie, of course, keeping tradition
Sure.
with what Andrew does. So, as you all may know, but maybe not all of our listeners, this movie's been basically in production, being made for over 4 years now. Phil Lord and Chris Miller over at Sony, the team behind the Lego Movie and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. They've been working on this. They kind of pitched this to Sony, and from what I remember, this was kind of around the same time that Tom Holland was coming into the Marvel Universe. And I think a little bit of it just kind of didn't get that much attention because Spider-Man was finally joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So this movie's been being created for a while, and it was a good 4 years.
Wait, is this a fun fact? This was pitched to Sam Raimi, but he had no idea how to get Peter Parker to be equally sympathetic. He was supposed to cheat on Mary Jane and leave their kid.
Well, that's not very sympathetic.
No.
Sounds like Peter Parker's an asshole.
That's not very fun.
Well, it might be if you're Peter.
I feel like I should not comment on this. I mean,
maybe Mary Jane's a bitch. Who knows, Henry?
Okay. All right. You know what?
Who knows?
Let's get out of this conversation and move into another
There are
one.
alternate dimensions, but
That was good. That was a fun fact. Goddamn, that was a fun fact.
I mean, look at these people coming prepared. Why don't you learn a lesson here, huh?
I'll note it. New Year's resolution.
That's a good point. And actually, that's another good point. You're bringing up some good points. I'm giving you shit, but you're bringing up some good points here. At least you're reminding me of things I want to say. I don't know when this episode will actually drop, but it's either going to be around Christmas time, like possibly on, or just shortly after. So to those who celebrate Christmas, I would like to, from all of us here at Watch Review Repeat, we wish you a Merry Christmas. So yeah. I think it's time to move into some of the news for the week, which, as I mentioned, is all Marvel-related news. So we're going to start in the world of Marvel television. We're actually going to start... my hope is that we can start on the darkest piece of news that we have and end on the brightest piece of news. In a way, I guess least exciting to most exciting, if you want to kind of look at it on that spectrum. But I'm gonna give Andrew the honors of crushing all of our hopes and dreams right now. So it's all yours, my friend.
So Netflix shit all over Daredevil and they canceled it.
That is the long and short of it. Yes. So actually,
no more.
And that's another thing you just reminded me of that I wanted to talk about. It's been. So I'm looking at the news. This news came out the tail end of November. So we've been on hiatus for weeks, as I mentioned, because of finals, just life in general. It wasn't a good time to be recording things. Also, it just happened that until Spider-Man came out, there really wasn't a whole lot that came out in terms of movies that we really had any sort of pressing desire to talk about. So it kind of worked out from that standpoint. But this is something, this news has been something that has kind of floated around in our brains for close to a month now. So it's kind of like, I've rationalized the decision. I've accepted the decision that Netflix has canceled Daredevil, but I don't know. It's like reopening some old wounds now, thinking about it, and I don't know, man. It's tough times.
I think the showrunners went on record to say that they thought the show was too good to fail, right? They had no idea it was.
Yeah, and I think that the creators, I know some of the folks in the writers' room were actually like breaking ground on scripts and stuff for an upcoming new season. I think everyone was, up until the cancellation happened, under the impression that season 4 was a go. So I think it took basically everyone by surprise, not only on the creative side, but I think on the audience side. Now, Netflix is notoriously stingy about releasing their viewership numbers, but I feel like you can look at the Luke Cage, you can look at the Iron Fist cancellations and think, oh, okay. But Daredevil's, it's the first show they had on there from the Marvel and Netflix collaboration, and it's the best. So it's kind of like, and I don't think that's a hot take to say that it's the best. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's pretty well regarded overall, and it's just, I don't know. I know, I don't want to hog the microphone, but let me just say that I'm disappointed.
Are you surprised though, Henry? Are you guys surprised?
I still was surprised. Like I was more surprised by Luke Cage, even Iron Fist, just because I figured they would keep making those. But I was both. I mean, seeing those two get canceled, I definitely had the fear that this would get canceled, but I was still surprised just after watching season 3 and seeing how good it was. I couldn't imagine that Netflix would actually do that. And when we said the show failed, I mean, again, we don't know the viewership, but I have a good sense that it had a pretty good viewership. And in terms of quality, is, in my opinion, the highest quality of any of the Marvel shows. One of the best, like, comic book adaptations on TV ever. So it's pretty upsetting.
Jumping off point, it's a PR scheme, feature film for Daredevil.
Oh, you think so, huh?
Yeah.
That's a hot take.
But
It's a hot take.
so I don't remember the exact source on this, but my understanding is that if basically the shows were to get canceled, that Marvel could not use the characters for a period of 2 years, which it really isn't a big deal if they were going to go the feature film route, because it usually takes at least 2 years to make a movie, especially when you're going to spend the big bucks on it the way that Marvel does. I'm 100% game for that as an idea. I think if there's any one character of any of the Netflix characters that absolutely deserves to play ball with the rest of the Marvel Studios, like MCU, proper MCU at that, it's got to be Daredevil.
It'd be Danny Rand.
No, it would be. No, fuck you. Get out of here. It's not Danny Rand.
Danny!
Get out of here. You're done. Cutting his mic. Cut his mic. You're in the room with him. Cut his mic. I don't want to hear from this motherfucker ever again.
Listen, I'm gonna if Danny Rand were to get pitched a movie, you're telling me if you saw a trailer for Danny Rand the Iron Fist, you wouldn't watch it?
If Marvel Studios did a proper version of
you would
Iron
go watch
Fist, I would be. Okay, all right. I will.
You'd be so game.
I will concede that I would watch a feature film version of the stupid fucking Danny, my boy. You know, I would watch it. But
vanilla wheat ice cream. Danny.
But if they made a proper Iron Fist movie, whether or not Finn Jones himself was attached, maybe Jessica Hennick could come back. That wouldn't be bad. You know, like I'd be much more down for that. I think everyone would be, because then it wouldn't. I mean, it would still have that kind of weird stink of like, oh, didn't they make this and it sucked kind of vibe for people that didn't care about it before. But then maybe people could watch it.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's true.
There have been plenty of times when it stunk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true.
You know, that's a 100% good point. So, yeah.
Let me ask you a question, Colton. I don't know if this would be a good point to segue. I know you had a potential order that you wanted to do this news in. But
Okay.
didn't we talk about like a badass, isn't there news for a badass kung fu person?
There is. Yeah. It's like, it's a natural segue. I will allow it. Even though I'm pointing it out now and making it less natural, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so Marvel Studios, at least if this news is any indication, doesn't seem to have any plans for an Iron Fist movie or Danny Rand movie. Just technically, they should be one and the same, even though they kind of weren't in the show. Shang-Chi is apparently the next. Well, I don't know if it's quote-unquote the next, but it is one of the next films that Marvel Studios, you know, the big boys, the film studio is setting. They're fast-tracking the movie. They've set a screenwriter for the movie in Dave Callahan. I'm not familiar with any of his past work. But, you know, if this goes into production, goes released, it would be the first Asian superhero movie that Marvel Studios would put out. I guess. Would that be the first Asian superhero movie from any of the major studios? Trying to rack my brain right now. Not Danny. Danny is as white as he can be. So.
Yep.
I think so. Yeah,
That I can think of.
It would be,
off the top of my
right?
head.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a blind spot. Obviously, I mean, for the most part, it's white dudes. Let's be honest. It's 99% white dudes. We're cracking into some novel territory with. You know, the Wonder Womans, the Captain Marvels, the Black Panthers of the world. But for the most part, it's been pretty, you know, blasé with kind of their approaches. So I respect that Marvel Studios is trying to do something a little bit different here. And
you think they're going to go hard with the kung fu man? I want to see some crazy ass Ip Man kung fu.
So Shang-Chi is, I mean, he's a character that is rooted in that sort of thing. Like, he is like amazing at martial arts, and not in like the Danny Rand way that he's amazing at martial arts, where he's like the best martial artist in the world, that he can defeat a dragon, but he gets kicked back. He gets his ass kicked by the random security guard.
Episode.
Yeah, like Shang-Chi should not be that. Like I'm looking at this article here. He's trained in the martial arts. He has unsurpassed skills, and I think.
But did he kill a dragon? Did he rip a dragon's heart out?
I don't think he ripped a dragon's heart out. Otherwise, he would technically be the Iron Fist. But I think this is an opportunity, if nothing else, to realize the failings of the Iron Fist television show in a medium with people. Presumably, I mean, Marvel Studios has a pretty good track record of hiring people that are good at making things and understand the characters that they're making about, i.e. they don't hire Scott fucking Buck to make their shit. So I have to think that, like, if Marvel Studios wants to make this movie, like, they're thinking, like, they got to have Black Panther on their mind. Like, they got to have that kind of success on their minds. Like, hey, we have a real opportunity here. Yeah, it took us 20 movies to make a movie with the black lead. Yeah, it took us 20 movies to make a movie with a female lead. But fuck it, man. Like, we're sniffing success here, and we're gonna pursue it.
But what if they're Celtic? Then they can be the ancient one.
Oh, going into that Swindon Tilton. Swindon Tilton?
Oh man, words.
You know what I'm talking about?
You're not wording good today, my friend. But
I'm a couple beers deep. I went to a Christmas party before here, so I'm pretty elated, as you like to say.
It's one way of putting it. It's one way of
the
putting
words.
it.
I'm naturally bad with the words, and then it's more pronounced whenever I have elation in my veins. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and your words are less pronounced, is what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
We're getting off track. But
off track.
Just finishing up on the Shang-Chi news. I kind of wish they would get a little more creative with the first Asian Marvel superhero. But Shang-Chi is from the comics, and at least they're not going to cast Scarlett Johansson in this role because she's already in this universe. So...
Well, you're saying you want them to get more creative. Do you have something in mind?
I don't have any specific heroes other than Cindy Moon in the top of my head.
Okay. All right. Well, that's
about it.
Complicated in terms of live action. So
yeah.
What's going on with Cindy Moon? I don't know anything about Cindy Moon. Tell me about
it. That's Silk. She is another Spider-Woman of sorts. She was actually bitten by the same spider that bit Peter Parker, but then she got locked in a room or something for 10 years. So she's kind of developmentally stunted, but she's badass, spider character in her own right. And she's Asian, so South Korean, if I'm not mistaken, but I could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. Yeah,
but I kind of want a super powered kung fu artist, man. Is that bad?
I don't think it is in and of itself, but it I think that there is that unfortunate connotation there between Asian and martial arts, which doesn't always have to be there. I think there's we're in America. Have to we expect that. We think Bruce Lee. That's our thing. But I don't know, man. There's nothing wrong with it, but I can see it being potentially problematic.
Right, I understand. Fine. I don't know, but I still want...
I've heard suggestions that they should cast Asian actors for Namor, which I think would be awesome.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. That'd be fun. Yeah.
And I'd love to see Namor, whether he's in his own movie or a Black Panther sequel or something like that. I think that would be very cool. Extremely cool. But... we'll see what happens with this Shang-Chi movie. It's cool stuff. I mean, Marvel's got some weird things kind of, in the pipeline. I think they're doing an Eternals movie. They got a Black Widow movie, I think, coming as well. So, I don't know. As with everything Marvel Studios, we're in the bag. We enjoy our paychecks. So, of course, we're going to say nice things about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I have more nice things to say about Marvel.
Well, can you put a pin in it for just a second? Because I actually wanted to shift gears back to the world of Marvel Television. I was going to try to uplift everyone's spirits ever so slightly after that very bad news about Daredevil getting canceled by telling everyone that The Punisher Season 2 is arriving very soon to Netflix. January it will be coming to your streaming platform of Netflix.
Mercy.
No official date has been announced, but they kind of weirdly dropped it at the tail end of like their coming in January type trailer. I want to get excited for this, and I am excited for this in a way, but
then it'll get canceled.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. So
Thanks,
as
Henry.
a side note, he's right though. He's absolutely right. I mean, as a side note, Punisher and Jessica Jones were already in production at the time that basically this big cancellation spree came forward from Netflix. And so obviously if something's kind of basically already made, you're not going to cancel it. You're just bleeding money at that point. That's dumb. But it's just like a matter of time. Like Daredevil was like the golden child. Like if you're getting rid of Daredevil, well, we know Jessica Jones is gone. I'm sorry to say it, but Jessica Jones is more than gone. The showrunner already has announced that she's not going to be part of the show after the third season. The Punisher, you'd think maybe there's a sliver of hope for it, but I would say enjoy Punisher while you can, and I would say enjoy Jessica Jones while you can, because I think unfortunately the tenure for these characters is coming to an end. Maybe Disney Plus or Hulu.
Yeah,
once Disney gets their ownership shares, can come in and swoop in and save the day, but I would say don't hold out hope. Maybe feature films. Maybe that's the way to go. I think if we can see any of these actors reprise their roles in any sort of future media, I think it would be great. I would just say don't hold your breath is kind of unfortunately I think the reality of the situation, because actors can't spend 2 years waiting around for
Roles,
Marvel to give them that phone call. They gotta eat. They gotta eat. So but that's my news. You guys looking forward to Punisher?
Yeah, I really liked season 1 of The Punisher. I thought it was great.
Yeah, no, I'll be watching that day one.
All right. Well, we can go back into.
You ready to talk about my news, motherfucker? I'm ready to talk about my news.
All right. Yeah. Just give me just fuck me up, fam. Just give me all your news.
All right. Here's my news, dude. Okay. We're getting another Doctor Strange, and Scott Dickerson's going to return as the director.
Scott Dickerson, huh? Is he dicking around with some Doctor Strange sequel details?
Maybe it should be pronounced Derrickson.
Derrickson sounds. I like Dickerson. It's a real Johnny V type situation we've got going on here. Which, for those not in the know, Johnny V is also well, depending on your perspective, Johnny V is either the proper name or the nickname for Mr. Jon Favreau, who directed, of course, Iron Man 1 and 2.
No, his name's fucking Johnny V. Okay?
He's working on The Lion King right now.
We get paychecks from Marvel. Johnny V and us we're on a first name basis, and when I see him, I call him Johnny V.
First name basis, but he includes part of a made up name as part of the name.
Now, when I see Scotty, I say, "Hey, Dickerson, what's going on, bud? How's Doctor Strange going?" That's yeah. So that's my news.
I would be willing to bet that Scott Derrickson thinks like, man, that fucking Andrew guy's a real asshole. He keeps calling me Dickerson.
Fuck me. Sorry,
all right,
Scotty.
Sorry. So Scott
Derrickson
/ Dickerson is working on Doctor Strange 2. Is that what you're telling me? Is that what we're looking at here?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. All right.
And he was, of course, the director of the first Doctor Strange. So
I thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job. I feel like if you do a sequel to Doctor Strange, like you've got the origin story out of the way, you got to get weird with it. Like there was weirdness, especially in the third act of the first one, but I think that you got to get way weirder with it.
He could take it to a whole nother level. Like,
I will say,
you could tell he had the capacity to dabble in it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and this is jumping ahead quite a bit, but in the light of the movie we're going to talk about on this episode, you really got to get weird with it. Like the bar's been set. If you guys can feel me on that front. So yeah, I think that's good news. I feel like he seems like someone that really connected with the character. I think he was kind of drawn to the character in the first place. So I think it's nice to have continuity with the directing chair as well.
Right.
It's clear that he and Marvel Studios can work together and work together well and produce something successful. So I think he can do it again.
Totally. Totes my goats, man.
Any other thoughts on a Doctor Strange sequel?
You guys got any thoughts over there in the peanut gallery?
I assume they're gonna go with Mordo as the main villain, which would be cool. I think
he wanted. I think I don't. I follow him on Twitter. I mean, we're also friends, of course. I call him Derrickson, not Dickerson, mind you.
you're not that close.
He ain't as close as me and him, man.
But I've heard rumblings that he would like to do Nightmare as a sequel villain.
Ooh, that'd be fucking cool.
All right.
So
I like it.
But yeah, I would imagine Mordo would still be involved in some capacity. I feel like it'd be a waste to not bring back Chiwetel for that.
Do it.
All right. Let's say there's like a slowing in responses, so I'm trying to get the pulse of the room. It's difficult when I'm so many miles away. So you guys might have a better read on it. You might like if there are some blank stares going around, Andrew, you're more than welcome to you know.
No, I'm over here in my own little corner.
Torch.
I'm almost in the closet. I'm just over here drinking beer, mispronouncing everybody's names.
We're just having fun with it, man. Just having
drunken
a good time.
stupor. That's it.
But we've got two big trailers to close out our news section with. I'm gonna pass it off to you. You've got one trailer you'd like to talk about.
Yes, I saw a trailer with a particular lady in it, a particularly cool lady. Brie Larson is in this movie, and this movie is called Captain Marvel. And they released the second trailer to this a couple weeks back, and holy shit, I just rewatched to refresh myself, and I just got overwhelmed with hype. Like I could not contain it. I had an outburst of words just because it got so cool at the end. I know that every single person that I am talking to right now has seen this trailer, and I think everybody can enunciate their thoughts more better than me. So, Henry, what'd you think about this trailer?
I like the part where she goes Super Saiyan.
Hot damn, yes.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's pretty good, yes.
No, it looks cool. I think as a comic book fan, I'm very excited. I think if I didn't know anything about Captain Marvel, I feel like the trailers would get me excited, but I don't know if they would have sold me completely if I wasn't already into the character.
Like, does it just seem like Marvel typicalness, or why do you say that?
I don't know. I feel like aside from the end of the trailers, I'd like to see a little bit more. I mean, I wouldn't, because I'd rather just not see anything and just be surprised, but...
The typical moviegoer, you think, wants to see...
I haven't seen anything to know that it's going to be on the level of like Black Panther or anything like that.
I mean, from a story point of view, I feel like there's not a whole lot given of the plot. Like, there's obviously a lot more footage here than there was in the first trailer, but it still is kind of... Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you came in with very little knowledge of the character, you'd kind of be looking at this thinking, okay, well, what's the story? And I don't know that this trailer does a great job of telling that. And I am someone that says, great, I don't want to know the story before I walk in the door, so I'm good with that. But I could see that as like a general concern. But Andrew, how familiar are you with these characters?
I'm not very familiar at all.
Yeah, so I feel like you might be a good metric for this. And you seem to be pretty hyped. I am pretty hyped. I don't know if it's the coolness that's throwing you off kilter a little bit, but
I can tell you though that I don't know anything about Captain Marvel. I mean, I've talked to you guys one-on-one about the comic book version of her, or I guess, but I think that the trailer's fairly evident of what kind of direction the story's going to go in. I think that like, for example, I mean, she doesn't know where she came from, but she evidently came from Earth at some point, you know, and there's that storyline that they're going to pull. There's Jude Law, who looks like a badass. I don't know what Jude Law's doing around, but I'm pretty hyped to see Jude Law do whatever he does.
Being an alien?
Yeah, being a fucking alien. That's cool. You know, you saw the dude with the hammer.
Ronan?
Yeah. You saw fucking Ronan.
I got you.
Yeah. You know, that's cool. There's so much cool shit going on. And then at the end of the trailer, like, there's Ronan, there's a guy with the hammer. That's cool. You see Jude Law. Yeah, he's cool. You see Brie Larson. She's super fucking cool. And then you see her go fucking Super Saiyan, cutting through ships, blowing shit up. And it's, why would you not be hyped about that movie? And I don't know a lot about it, but I see Brie Larson blowing shit up, and her hair's floating, and the beams coming out of her hands and stuff, and I'm all about it. I'm simple man, simple pleasures. Know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think that there are definitely hints towards the story in general, but I don't.
Although she doesn't smile a whole lot, and I have a problem with that. That was definitely a joke.
You had to clarify it. I understand it, but I think we did somewhat touch on that last time. And I think
Did
it
we
was
touch
just
on that last time.
we did. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I think we were yelling at the internet for a good few minutes, so we won't do that again this time. I see what you're saying. I think that absolutely especially the moments towards the end of this trailer, the Super Saiyan, her fucking blowing ships up and shit. Like, it looks awesome.
So
like, I think
cool.
I think visually it looks very cool. I'm excited to see like a 90s setting for Marvel
Now,
Studios. That's
Here's a collective
novel.
question for all you guys. At the
Yes.
beginning of the trailer, she's got like the mohawk going on, which is super fucking cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's down there and she's got like her green suit on, and she's doing like this like woo, 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 you know what I'm saying?
The Iron Man float.
I'm doing like a motion here, Colton. You can't see it.
The Iron Man float.
The Iron Man float. I don't know if you.
I have the frame pulled up, so now I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, and then at the end she goes Super Saiyan, but her suit's different. So do you think the green suit is before the red suit?
Yeah, I think that's her career uniform.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, good deal. All right, I was
Yeah,
just
she's
curious.
that's her green uniform. Just for a little lore. She's part of Star Force at that point.
With the red uniform or the green uniform?
The green uniform.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to ask you guys another question. So what you're thinking is you're thinking that Brie Larson is Mohawk before, and then something happens, and she gets crashed to Earth, and then she becomes
Captain Marvel.
Red Suit Captain Marvel.
I think that's going to be the general story beat.
Okay, all right. That's fucking cool.
Yeah, there's more to that. I mean,
I'm sure there's more to it, but
Well, if
Mohawk
I'm
is
not
really
mis-
cool. I really
If
like
I'm not
Mohawk.
mistaken, red-suited Captain Marvel at the tail end when she's blowing up all the shits has a mohawk. So the mohawk is consistent
she
between
keeps the
both.
mohawk.
She keeps the Mohawk?
Yeah,
Well,
she has a mohawk in that big shot.
She
at
had
the
like
end.
the sequence. She had the sequence there where like her hair was floating up in the air.
Yeah, that's without the helmet.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. Her
Yeah,
hair
but
was
I mean,
floating.
like when she's up in space, like blowing shit up, she has the mohawk in that, and she has the red and blue suit.
Well, that's fucking cool.
So the mohawk's there to stay, baby.
Yes.
We're all in on the mohawk.
I'm all about it.
110% in on the mohawk.
Yes.
We're here for the mohawk.
I'm all for Mohawk.
Too much fun, too much beer.
All right. So final thoughts on Captain Marvel trailer 2. Anyone
yes.
have any? All right. Fuck yes. That's a good final thought.
Yeah,
Any
that's
others?
That's a good thought.
Any tie-ins you think for Guardians of the Galaxy?
I hope so.
Expert.
Mostly Ronan, right?
Any favorites for Chris Pratt?
Well, he's dead.
That's true.
Did Chris
And
Pratt,
it's also set in the 90s, so
okay.
I think aside from
Chris
Ronan,
Pratt would be a little teenager boy. He'd be a little asshole.
he's still a little asshole.
What about Mary Poppins? You think Mary Poppins is going to be in it?
Yandu?
Think so.
Yeah.
That Mary Poppins? My brain actually jumped to Emily Blunt, so I was confused. And I'm like, yeah, bring her in. I mean, I'm still gaming for her to be Sue Storm, but this is fine. Yeah, she can be in space.
I don't know. I don't know how many pulls there, because the time period thing, like you said, Henry, it's kind of wonky. I wonder how much crossover there'll actually be. But
I wouldn't expect any with Guardians, but
there has to be, at the end of that sequence, there has to be a reference pulling in
To Infinity
her,
War.
exactly, because
Yeah.
she was the pull at the end of Infinity War,
Yeah.
the first one.
yeah,
So there has to be some sort of pull from there.
maybe she'll look at her pager and say, "Nah, I'm good. Thanks, though.
Yeah, fuck them. Anyway.
Thank you.
Thanos.
Next." All right, let's get into our final trailer.
What trailer is
big
that?
one. The big boy, Marvel Studios Avengers official trailer, and I say that because they actually did not put the title in the actual YouTube link, because the title has been this big mystery for the longest time. Like, what's Avengers 4 going to be titled? What's it going to be titled? What's it going to be titled?
But you heard it here first.
You might have heard it here first. Let me see if I can pull up one text message I might have sent to.
Oh yeah, you might
to
have
you and Henry.
predicted this title.
I think
I've gotta
I think
find it.
you actually did hear it here first. But
I mean, you might have read it on the internet because technically that's where I had the speculation from.
Fuck,
but,
dude, you're not supposed to give credit to the internet.
All right. I've got it here. I should have had this ready, but this is a quote. I'm quoting myself. What I like and what I think is going to be it, makes sense given the dialogue in this movie, is Avengers Endgame. Quoted by, said by Colton Brown at timestamp 2 hours, 18 minutes, and 22 seconds on Watch Review Repeat episode 41, which was for Avengers Infinity War, released May 5th, 2018. You heard it here first. You heard it here first.
That's true.
There it is.
You did.
So the title is Avengers Endgame. I think it's absolutely fitting, and something I didn't even actually think about. Many people have pointed out afterwards. The words "in-game" are actually spoken in Age of Ultron as well. So it's been there. It's been there for a while. Yeah, I think Stark says at one point, like, that up there, that's the end game.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
I think he says it to Fury in the bar. If I'm not mistaken,
you remember that shit. I don't remember that shit.
Well, someone remembered it, and then I remembered it because someone else remembered it. It's a complicated process, of course. But Avengers Endgame, we've got a 2-minute trailer. I mean, this is, I will say, this is a great trailer in my opinion, because it is a trailer that tells me everything that I wanted to know, yet tells me pretty much nothing about the movie, and that's kind of exciting.
It's a perfect teaser,
because Avengers Endgame is the kind of movie like on the cusp of, on basically as a result of the events of Infinity War, which I think we can fuck spoiler warnings at this point. Like, come on, be a part of the human race, as we've well established at this point.
Do you live under a goddamn rock? Anyways,
everyone kind of knows that, like holy shit, like, where do you go from here? And this doesn't really spool out the details in any way, and in a way that tells you this is how we're going to beat Thanos. It's just we've got a plan to beat Thanos, and let's hope that it fucking works, because I don't know what we're going to do if it doesn't. That's pretty much it. You've got the hopelessness of Stark in the beginning, kind of talking to his helmet, floating to his potential death in space, and it's just kind of got this very downtrodden feeling to it, like a defeated Avengers should have. But then there's a glimmer of hope. There's a plan, and then there's Scott Lang. Has kind of just been like, hey guys, what's up? What's going on? Did I miss anything? Everything's fine, right? I don't know. It's good.
Hawkeye.
Yeah, Hawkeye's got a goddamn sword. Just like Brie Larson has a mohawk and Super Saiyan powers. I see homeboy over there with a sword and a cool haircut, and I'm all about it.
He's still gonna shoot it though, right?
He's gonna shoot his sword.
Yeah.
If he's gonna shoot his goddamn sword, I am all about it. Yes.
I don't see any bows on his back. So I mean, maybe someone just heroically hands him the bow, and then he takes the sword, and he's like, yeah, fuck it. Maybe that's the way he kills Thanos. He fucking shoots his sword into his head.
Do you think
he goes for the head?
You heard it here first.
You heard it here first.
I don't think we're going to quote that one anytime soon.
He does look pretty upset, though. He looks. He looks...
Well, if you'll notice the way that the audio, the narration is edited, it says something about we've all lost family, and then it very
his family's dead.
Closely cuts to Hawkeye at that point, which to me implies that a man that had 3 kids
with the
and
Avengers
a wife
for his family. Yes,
I would say 3 kids and a wife. Statistically, based on the 50%. Someone's not making it out. That might be enough.
Yeah, at least.
But
now it's interesting because he's always been a very reserved character this entire time because he has a family. And now if he's got nothing to lose, imagine how badass and unhinged this guy's going to be. I am 100% excited. What do they call him in the comic books?
Ronin.
Yes, I'm excited to see a Ronin.
Ronin with an I, to be distinguished from Ronin with an A, who we previously discussed in the Captain Marvel trailer. Look, it's
true.
Fine.
I think Ronin is Japanese for wanderer or something like that, right?
I think a samurai without a master.
Yeah, samurai without a goddamn master. Yeah. Fuck yeah, that's Hawkeye. I'm very excited. That's all you need to give me. And you could have made a Ronin movie.
Very well could be in Japan in this, which.
Oh, true.
Based on the setting, there's what looks like it could be Kenji, and it's actually Hiroyuki Sanada on the street, who is a Japanese actor. So it's probably in Japan where he is. That's all I'm saying.
God damn, did you just pull that off your cuff? Do you just like boom, 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 boom?
I have the frame up on my computer right now that I'm looking at, and I looked at the actor who was on the ground, and I recognized him.
And you recognized him but pulled his name.
Nicely
Lord have
done.
mercy. Yes.
Well, he's been in Westworld.
That's
been
why
in the Wolverine.
That's why
so,
we get paid by Marvel. Colton Brown, you're bringing in the paychecks, man. You're
And I
doing
knew
the
he
work.
was in Avengers 4, so it was a combination of the things of knowledge that I possess in my brain.
You heard it here first. Ronan's in fucking
Now,
Japan.
Let me ask you folks a question here. Can you take yourselves back to 2012 and ever imagine a time where like there's an Avengers movie without a Hawkeye, and then the trailer for Avengers 4 comes out, and you see Hawkeye, and you get fucking excited? You're like, I missed that motherfucker. Like, yeah, I where was Hawkeye this time? What's he been up to? And then you see him like, fuck, dude's been through some shit. This is awesome. Like, I'm excited to see what Hawkeye's been up to this whole time, because I can't go back to that time period doesn't exist for me. But I'm
He's
happy.
always been like a Pepper character. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not the main course, but God,
Peppered in?
Yeah, he's peppered in. Goddamn, when he's there, he makes it good. He makes it pop.
Are we using pepper in the sense of the spice or pepper pots?
We're not using pepper. No, that was a. I don't know, but
I got confused because I was in Marvel mode and you said pepper. And I'm like, oh yeah, pepper pots.
When
I'm
did
like,
Matt
oh, just
Fraction's Hawkeye come out? Because that's when I was reading it. I liked Hawkeye then.
That's a good point. But I always feel like that. Like,
is the Hawkeye comic any good?
It's so good.
yes, that one is great. But I feel like that we never really have seen that version of Hawkeye in the MCU. Like I like Jeremy Renner, but I feel like
Jeremy's the best.
Jeremy's pretty good. But I feel like there's a separation between those two. But that is a very good point. So I will concede that. So yeah. Obviously Hawkeye has this. I'm not trying to naysay Hawkeye, but I just feel like people like point to him and Black Widow and be like, I'm sorry, why the fuck are these guys with Thor and Iron Man and Captain America and company? And it's just like, you're not wrong.
I have a very strong feeling we're going to find out why these people are competent superheroes.
Oh yeah.
In this next movie, I'm half the motherfuckers disappeared. So this is what you got. You got Black Widow, you got Captain America, and you got the Ronin.
But you don't got a beard though.
You don't have a beard.
I was a little upset about the lack of beard on Captain America.
Well, it got snapped away.
Oh,
But the whole thing. What about half of it?
That was the biggest repercussion.
he can't
the
grow
snap.
a beard anymore. Holy shit! Took away his hair follicles. Oh my goodness.
All right, so Avengers Endgame. Any last minute thoughts on the trailer? Or
I'm all in.
I hope
Dude's
they
all
kind
in.
of minimize the marketing as much. I mean, for a movie
tough.
this big, it's kind of hard to. But I would hope that
Right.
they keep a lot of the plot elements out of the trailers at least.
well, and we know that Captain Marvel is going to be in the movie.
Exactly.
So we didn't see her here. You know, I would think maybe they would bury that until at least the movie, her own movie comes out. That way, it doesn't totally
Question.
spoil the fact.
Does
of how she
Captain
appears in
America's plan include Captain Marvel?
I don't think so.
Hot take.
Fury disappeared, so no one else knows.
No one
My
else
guess,
knows.
my guess is no, because I don't think he has any idea that she exists
So
at this point.
maybe Captain America, who doesn't, I don't know what I'm going to do if the plan fails. Maybe his plan fails, and then Captain Marvel comes in there and helps out a little bit. Know what I'm saying?
Little Carol Ex Machina. It's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Captain Marvel
I-
comes out and Captain America's all got a beard and shit because he's depressed and his plan didn't work. And then Captain Marvel comes in there and lights his shit up and everybody's happy again. Fuck yeah. I'm all about it.
I don't think we're seeing Cap with a beard again, personally, but that's my opinion. I don't know. I have my faith in the Russos. I have my faith in Marcus and McFeely, the writers of this movie, to deliver on what has been set up. They've had a great run with the Captain Americas with Infinity War. I think they've got something exciting in store for us. I will say that. I will say that.
I mean, this is the precipice of a decade's worth of work, a decade and a half. I mean, it's been a long time we've been working towards this shit.
Just a decade, but
a decade. Okay, fine.
Still,
I mean, it's a long fucking time. We're invested.
It's a lot of movies. It's now 20 plus movies by the time Endgame drops. So yeah, it'll be something. Let's let's transition over
to our main content. Yeah,
to the main content. Yeah, are you okay with that?
Lead us in.
All right, let's talk about some fucking Spider-Man. Some Spider-Men and women. We got to be inclusive.
And animals.
And animals.
Spider animals. That's a good point. Spider-Man.
Spider and animals.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. That is our movie for the week that we're talking about. Directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. Written by Phil Lord and Rodney Rothman. It stars the voice talents of Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, Haley Steinfeld, Mahershala Ali, Brian Tyree Henry. I just skipped. Oh God, John Mulaney, Kimiko Glenn, Nicolas Cage, and Liev Schreiber.
Nicolas Cage. Say that again, please. Nicolas fucking Cage in Spider-Man. That's cool. Anyways, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought you wanted me to do it like a Nicolas Cage voice.
Can you do a Nicolas Cage voice?
I'm Spider-Man Noir.
Not the bees.
Not the bees. The bees. Killing me won't bring back your goddamn honey.
I'm a vampire.
I'm a vampire. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, A, B, B, C, D, I ran out of the alphabet there. It's fine.
Okay.
Nick Cage's goddamn Spider-Man. Fuck yes.
All right.
If that doesn't get you hyped for this movie, I don't know what else could. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that.
I feel like my skull's on fire, but otherwise I'm all right. And God damn it. In this,
Please continue, Colton.
in this movie, Miles Morales, a Brooklyn teenager bitten by a totally normal spider, must learn how to channel his powers and become Spider-Man with the help of his counterparts, such as Nicolas Cage's Spider-Man Noir, from other dimensions to stop a threat to all reality. Big stakes. Box office wise, this movie ended up at number 1 in its opening weekend with a $35.3 million domestic opening, which, isn't amazing, but for an animated movie like this, I think it's doing pretty well for itself. It's sitting at $129.6 million worldwide on a budget of $90 million, and I think Sony's happy with the receipts so far, and I think we'll continue to be happy with them. And we'll get into that later. But let's get into some other things right now. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, we're going to open this up with some non-spoiler thoughts. Who would like to kick off, would like to kick this discussion off?
I will kick the shit off, and I will tell you what I think about this movie. I went in, and I was pretty excited, and very seldom do you get returns on your excitement. Sometimes you're overhyped a little bit, and you get let down. Other times you're just, I don't know. I guess this is the other time where you're completely blown away. And I had a very good time watching this movie. I actually went and saw this movie with somebody who I would go out on a limb and say they probably don't have a lot of experience with Spider-Mans or comics or anything like that. And that person had a thoroughly enjoyable time with it as well. And I there was another person that I spoke to, an older gentleman at my place of employment, and he thoroughly enjoyed the movie as well. He said it was very, very good. And this is coming from somebody that I know that does not enjoy animated features, and so I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is an overall well-rounded film. If animation isn't your thing, I think you'll still enjoy it. And it's just, oh God, it's just so good. If you don't know a lot about Spider-Man, I think it goes out on a limb to tell you everything about Spider-Man, and I think it's welcoming to people that don't know about anything comic related. I think it's I don't know. It's an exceptional film. I had a really good time watching it. The soundtrack was great. The animation was, I think this is probably one of the, there's a lot of really well animated films, but this one had a lot of character. I think this is probably, I don't know. It's very different than a lot of other animated films. Like it took its
It was expressive. It was not afraid to be abstract.
Yes. And it took a lot from the source material too. Like the way it was animated, it was almost as if it was pulled from the pages of a comic book, which is really, I don't know, I think, and it was really well done. It was artistically done. So kudos to the people that put that together, because I mean, there's nothing else like it. And I don't think you can pull any other animated film and get something like this. It's very cool.
Not just stop motion, not just comics. It was, it had that graffiti feel. Mm-hmm. And I like that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of that. Somebody else pick up the phone, please.
I'll go.
Running out of adjectives.
No, kind of running off the animation. The animation was incredible. I think when I first watched the trailer, I thought it was a little jarring. Not that in a bad way, in a sense, but I think when you do first start watching a movie, it is a little bit jarring. There are aspects when the certain things aren't in focus, and it almost looks like a red-blue 3D effect. But I think the animation is gorgeous from the entire film. They incorporate a lot of different styles of animation. Some different characters all look very different, more from their like universe and their source material.
How did you see it? What format did you see it in?
I saw it in all the formats.
Including Big D?
I was going to say, except the Big D. Except the Big D. I figured you might bring that up.
Oh, what a callback.
No, I thought about that. I was going to say, I saw it in a regular, like 2D.
Regular D.
I saw it in IMAX, and I saw it in 3D.
D, a 2D.
Did you see it in
But
Dolby?
not the Big D. Not the
Hey,
Big
Andrew.
D.
Yeah.
Andrew, can I ask you a question? Have you ever gone to see a Big D movie with old Scott Dickerson?
Maybe
Seems like it might be the right kind of format for that type of setting. You know what I mean? I don't know why. I just got this feeling.
I haven't seen a Big D format movie yet. Looking forward to it, but I haven't seen it yet.
Big fan of the Big D, huh?
I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna say that I saw it in Dolby, a Dolby theater. That's how I saw it. So yeah, say that moving forward. Anyways, no Big D on my end though.
Anyway, Henry, I believe you might have had some thoughts as well.
Aside from that,
to add to finish your thought.
I think the plot was very impressive. I think that's the one thing that impressed me the most. I kind of figured the animation would be at a high quality, but they just incorporated an origin story from Miles while making it similar to previous Spider-Man origin stories that you've seen, and even recapping previous origin stories, just done in a very clever way where it's not tiring to keep seeing that over and over again. But if you are one of the few people in the world that don't know the Spider-Man origin story, they give it to you very quick. And
they give you all the iterations too.
Exactly. They give you everything, but it's very quick. But all the things you need to know.
Yeah.
So everyone can be on the same par in this movie. And I thought they handled the characters really well. Miles gets a really strong story. He's still the main character in the film, even though there's so many Spider-Men. But they give Peter a really interesting story. And Gwen Stacy gets a very interesting story. So they're able to balance a lot of aspects in this film. And I remember one of the first things I texted you guys after I watched it, said, I'm in disbelief that this movie was created by, some of the same, not the same people, but the same studio that made Amazing Spider-Man 2, because that was a film that did not.
Venom, right? They put out Venom too, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, this is from Sony, the people who made Venom, which I have not seen, but I am going to assume and jump out on a limb that it's not that great.
And that it's horseshit. Yeah, no, you wouldn't be very far off.
But they really understood Spider-Man and kind of the magic that I associate with the character, that anyone can be Spider-Man, but there's certain aspects too that are common to all Spider-Man stories.
And they went on a limb to, well, no, I don't want to go too deep.
No, I was just going to say, I thought they handled that very well.
Yeah, it's true. It's pretty fucking cool, man. It's pretty good.
I loved it. I'm familiar with Spider-Man from the comics, but I liked that it was balanced between Peter B. Parker, Gwen Stacy, and Miles Morales, definitely.
Peter B. Parker. Good pool.
Peter Benjamin Parker.
What's the other Parker?
He's also,
Is he
I assume, Peter Benjamin Parker.
He's also Peter Benjamin Parker,
Yeah.
but he doesn't go by Peter B. Parker, so it's fine.
Peter B. Parker? Okay, all right, fair enough. Colton, what did you think about this movie? Did you think it was a load of bullshit? Did you hate it?
Yeah, it was fucking garbage, and Venom is easily the best Sony Spider-Man property related. No, I'm sorry, I can't finish that thought. Yeah, the advantage of going last is that I don't have to say most of the things because they've already been said for me. The disadvantage is I feel like every time I say something, I'm just kind of repeating what people have already said before me. But you guys have hit on a lot of the things that I felt about this movie. Let me say up the top, I thought this was fantastic. I was looking forward to this one, absolutely. I actually, out of curiosity, went back to some of our previous episodes to see kind of what our thoughts were on it, almost a year ago, basically. And we had the general impression of like, hey, Sony, do this and not the other thing. And having seen both this and Venom, that is absolutely on display here. Like it is, Henry, you've talked about this. It's quite astonishing that the same studio is responsible for both of these movies. One is an absolute train wreck, and one is top tier superhero film. And I don't feel bad about saying that because I think it's true. I mean, this has so many characters, so many different elements on the table, and it manages to balance them in a way that you don't really see that often, and weirdly enough, I don't think you could make a live action version of this movie. Like, it 100% takes advantage of the format that it's made in and kind of maximizes it. And I feel like this is I love Homecoming. I love Spider-Man Homecoming and everything like that, but I don't know, man, this could be the definitive Spider-Man film.
I know that there was a caveat for its opening amount, that it's good for an animated film, but I was so into this, I forgot it was animated. I liked it. It had great dramatic beats, had great comedic beats, great superhero action beats. I don't distinguish between it being an animated film and a feature-length, big Spider-Man film.
And I think that's fair. I mean, I don't think you need to bring that into the conversation. I mean, I bring it into the conversation on in the context of the animation being fucking amazing. I mean, the animation here is absolutely incredible, but I feel like I think it's a shame that people, Andrew, you talked about this too. Some people don't like animated things.
No, it's very true. Like
this movie's animated, I'm not going to go watch it in theaters. That's a very real sentiment, and I think that's a damn shame because you're going to miss out on something like this. Because I don't want to say that this movie, I mean, it is relatively kid friendly, but it's extremely adult friendly as well. This is the type of animated film that's obviously made with both audiences in mind, and that's not always the case. There's a lot of animated films, and we had a somewhat conversation about this before we actually recorded. The trailer reel, both times I watched this, was very kid movie centric and exclusively if you're above the age of 10, you're going to want to gouge your eyes out for the 2 hours that you're going to spend in the cinema watching this with your 5-year-old. This is not that kind of movie. This is the kind of movie that almost arguably is too dark at times for kids that are 5 years old. 10-year-olds, yeah, they're probably fine. You know what I mean? But this is a movie that, even though it's animated, I don't think I feel like that can be used as a detractor, and I feel like that's definitely doing it a disservice. It's a movie that I think it uses. I think because of the nature of the story, you can't. Again, you couldn't tell this in live action. I mean, you could try. I don't.
It wouldn't be the same.
No, it wouldn't be the same. I don't think you'd be able to pull it off. And there's just. I think the beauty of this movie is the clash in styles between everything that you see in front of you. That's kind of the draw. And so if you tried to homogenize everything, well, what's the point? You kind of strip it of the beauty of it. So, yeah.
It's a story that benefits from the medium it's told in, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's kind of, I wish this movie was making close to $1 billion like fucking Venom did. I think this movie deserves all of the money that it's going to make, and then so much more. And I wish that I wish that people saw that for what it is.
Do you know what it cost to make?
It was a $90 million budget, so I think fairly reasonable for an animated film. But and I think Sony's happy again with the numbers that it's going to get, and it is getting, but it's not like this runaway success to the point where like they're making 19,000 different spinoffs or anything like that of it. But I don't know.
But I mean, they should.
At the same time, like I think that Sony should absolutely make more in this vein. Like, it's weird. It's weird for me because in my brain, I think of Sony and I think of Spider-Man, and I think Sony does not have any rights to this character, and they should not have any right to this character
until now.
This comes out, and you're like, you know what? If Sony made like I could be if Sony let Tom Holland play Spider-Man in his own movies and in the MCU in general in a live action medium, and then Sony just made like one of these a year, I'd have no issues with it. If they could maintain anything even close to this
but they wouldn't have to make
Morbius
and Venom.
That's just it. It's just kind of like, man, like it's like, yeah, like there's the part of your brain where like, well, fuck Venom and fuck Morbius and fuck all those stupid characters they want to make. Fuck their Craven movie that they're going to put Spider-Man in. Like, fuck all that. Like, I don't want that. It's like if you take that away from them, you also could potentially destroy this. Because would Disney want to do this? I mean, I would think they would, but that's not a guarantee, So it's kind of just like, shit, man. Like now there's a real conundrum you've got on your hands where it's just like, I don't know. Is it worth getting a Venom a year? Is it worth getting a Venom 2, a Venom 3, a Venom 4, a Morbius 1, a Morbius isn't getting a sequel. Who's fucking kidding?
How many bad Spider-Mans have we had? 3?
I would say
too easy.
Do you count Venom as Spider-Man?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I just threw a fucking bottle opener.
He wasn't in it, so I guess not.
It depends because I think it's 2 if you talk about
property.
Exclusively Spider-Man films, but if you include it as something lumped within the property, I would say 3 to 3.5 is fair because I think the first Amazing Spider-Man is fine.
Is that the one with the blue Electro?
No, that's the second one. That is very much
that's
one of the bad ones.
That was very bad. Okay.
Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think, are easily bad. I think Venom is also bad. And I think the first Amazing Spider-Man is varying levels. I think it's okay enough to not be considered bad, but a misstep overall.
Well, I know that the first Spider-Man was... maybe it's... what's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgic, yes. So I haven't revisited it in a long time, but I remember that was fucking awesome seeing Spider-Man. The first, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the first one.
I can tell you right now, it's not awesome, but it's fine.
That's not awesome.
I'll
I think it's one of those.
I would say more recent than you, based on our conversation right now. But
I haven't seen it in many, many years, and I haven't seen the second with the Doc Ock one. I haven't seen that one either.
That one is legitimately good. So there's that.
So I don't. I feel like Sony's just a hit or miss. I think. But this is incredible. I mean, I think it's. There's a big article online, or there's multiple articles, or whatever. You'll see them. But a lot of people say that this is their favorite Spider-Man movie.
It's so much more interesting when creators like Robbie Rodriguez, who created the iconic Spider-Gwen, actually get to participate, and she did participate in the art.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
It's not just a naked cash grab like Venom or other things that supposedly expand the universe.
Oh, so the creators of these people are the creators of the characters are actually
getting
involved.
Back to their roots. It's actually the comics who are coming into the movies more so than before, maybe.
Yeah, that's fucking cool. Now, do you think that's because of the medium that it's told in? Do you think if this was a live action thing, do you think they would be involved in it then, or do you think
might be harder?
Yeah,
it might be more difficult, right? I don't know. It's I don't know. This is an incredible movie. I think that I don't know. I think take your kids to it. I think everybody could go see it. I guess I'm hopping into recommendations because I have some questions about spoilers.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Yeah. Well, we can jump into recommendation in just a second. I do want to get some final thoughts for non-spoilers because I feel like we got somewhat off into the general what the fuck are you doing with your life, Sony kind of discussion, which is fair. It's warranted. But clearly they were doing okay with their life on this front. I just some last minute thoughts before I'll pass it back up to you, Andrew, in just a second. But I think Henry talked about it just a little bit. This is an origin story, but it's kind of disguised. It's masked. It's not the typical origin story kind of, I don't want to say boringness, but really boringness that you kind of get with a lot of origin stories now. They're just like it's very samey. It's it's the same kind of flavor feel to a lot of them. You're like, we get it. Like we want to see him doing super things, not oh no, I got bit by a spider. Oh no, like there is that. It's weirdly enough there is that, but there's enough going on around it that it kind of masks that aspect of it and keeps you pretty enthralled throughout. But that even by the time like you're kind of expecting the origin story payoff, you're like, no, I'm still already content. Like that's just the next level, like being of content. Like it's cool. Thought it was very cleverly handled on that front. Animation, we've already talked about it, so enough said on that front. It's beautiful. It's incredible. Groundbreaking actually in some ways. Look it up. And I don't know if we talked about it too much, but the voice cast is wonderful across the board. Yes. Everyone here. I mean, it's actually a really, really amazing cast that they assembled for this, but fantastic top to bottom. Shamik Moore is Milo's, Jake Johnson, particularly as Peter B. Parker, is great, which I think this is another thing when I went back. There was the rumor that John Krasinski, Mr. Jim from The Office, was supposed to be the Peter Parker in this movie.
Jim?
Yeah, and we actually talked about it on like the air as if it was like a fact of life that like he was in this movie. And I looked it up because I was just like, he's not in this movie. And it was just like a rumor that got like shot down like a week later. Like they reached out to his agent. He's like, yeah, he has nothing to do with that movie. You should have had something to do with this movie, Jim from The Office. You fucked up. Even though you had a pretty good year, you fucked up. You could have had an amazing year. An amazing Spider-Man year.
A Clancy hero.
Yeah, that's true. Yep.
He's also defending A Quiet Place or whatever.
Oh, I like that.
That's pretty good. But no, they're all great. Haley Steinfeld having a pretty good year for herself. Bumblebee, haven't seen it yet, but it's got pretty good reviews, and it's a Transformers movie. What's going on there? Anyway, it's fine. Mahershala Ali, always crushing it. Brian Tyree Henry, always crushing it.
Who was he in this?
He was his uncle. He was Miles' uncle.
Oh,
Aaron Davis.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Aaron Davis.
All right.
Yeah.
And then Brian Tyree Henry was his dad.
Hey.
Yeah, no, top to bottom, Nicolas Cage, he's pretty
John
good.
Mulaney.
It's pretty good. John Mulaney, great. And
who was he in this?
He was Spider-Ham.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, big shout out to the voice cast, I guess is the bottom line there, and the soundtrack.
Boom.
Soundtrack
so good. It's gold.
Great. It is been in regular rotation on my Spotify. I will say that it's really good. It's really good. The score is good too. So but there's a healthy blend of kind of both the original tracks for the movie and the original score here. So those are things I wanted to shout out in the non-spoiler section. So yes, very, very good movie. Andrew has a recommendation in store for you.
I got a recommendation. I wanted to cut you off when you were talking about origin story stuff. But I think that the best origin stories are the ones where you don't necessarily care if they're origin stories. Like you're wrapped up in the character enough to know to not say, oh, here's the typical tropes of a origin story. You know what I mean? You're wrapped up in Miles Morales.
How did you feel about the other characters, specifically Gwen Stacy, especially since that's, a fun gender swap?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. And that's the thing too. A lot of these people they're almost like, I don't know if this is spoiler territory or not, but Peter B. Parker is almost starting over. You know what I mean? Gwen Stacy is almost, they all have these certain goals that they're starting off at, they're jumping off points. But Miles Morales in particular, he's an interesting enough person or a character to where he gains these spider powers and stuff, and that's great. But
yes, that
he's much more than just that. He's
a cool kid. I would know him regardless.
Exactly. So it's I don't know. everyone is multifaceted. At least the three major characters are, I would say. So it's, I don't know, like there's a lot of dramatic plot beats or whatever, story beats.
Well, why don't you hold on to that thought? We'll get into that in spoilers. I think there's more room to expound on that.
I'll tuck that in my pocket.
Tuck it in your pocket.
I think that this is an excellent movie for children. I think that this is an excellent movie for adults. I think that this is an excellent movie for comic book goers. I think that this is an excellent movie for Marvel Studio fans. I think this is an excellent movie for anyone who enjoys a movie. Now, if you don't enjoy movies, then you're probably not listening to the podcast, so you don't give a shit what I say. But if you do enjoy movies, then I think you should watch this movie. I think this movie is a work of art, and I think it's a very well-made, well-crafted work of love from everyone who put time in it, and I think it's an excellent film. I would highly recommend this movie. And I would recommend that you see it in the best audio format and the best the best film format. However you can access this movie, I would recommend you watch it in the best format you can. I would recommend you get an AMC pass so you can do that for free. But if you can't do it for free, I would recommend you pay money for that. So that's my recommendation. Henrique, over to you.
No, completely agree. You have to watch this in theaters. Don't wait till this comes out. This is such a great movie, and the theater experience with how stunning it is visually, you really should go see this in theaters. If you're not, if you're a little bit tired of Spider-Man movies, still go see it because it's so different. And, with a couple of movies this year, I feel like they've done really well in Hollywood to create new stories they're very inclusive stories. And this one in particular is very representative. A lot of the heroes aren't the same heroes that have been featured and everything. And with Miles Morales, I feel like he's going to be one of those future Marvel heroes that's going to inspire a lot of little kids, with his background being half black, half Puerto Rican, living in Brooklyn, loving his music with hip hop, doing graffiti art. It's so, I don't know why it's new, but it's new.
Well, it's not typical, right? I mean, normally you get
should be.
Yeah,
it's new for Spider-Man, if nothing else.
Right. It's new for Spider-Man in the cinematic. What's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, in the medium that you watch it in.
Yeah.
No, I think this is going to be a big movie. In a similar way that Black Panther was, probably not with as big of a reach, but still very influential.
Yeah, I think in terms of the resonance, it absolutely kind of hits on the same beats, I would say.
Exactly.
It's your turn. What do you think?
Which I don't mean to butt in, but we do have a recommendation scale. And I had it in my brain. I was just like, I'm going to refresh our listeners on this. And then I was just like,
oh, that's true.
I feel
you got to refresh it for her. Yes.
I feel like we all
Go
might feel the same about this, but I didn't want to be presumptive. But our scale, it's a 4-tiered scale. It's see it in theaters. That's the highest recommendation you can give for any movie that we talk about. Or you could recommend that someone wait until the Blu-ray comes out. Still, it's pretty solid. But it doesn't demand your attention right away. You could also wait for Netflix or any of the streaming services, the 19,000 streaming services that are available for you today.
Nope. See it now.
And the last. Okay. Well, we can cut ourselves off. So you want to see it now?
Go for it. See it now.
Well, I was gonna say the last one
doesn't matter.
The last one's fun. The last one's fun because it's you have to wait till someone offers to pay you to see it. I feel like that's a fun way to think. We don't give that one out too often, but. I don't know, Venom. I think we might have given it out to you. I could be wrong, but
I've been waiting for someone to pay me to go see Venom. So if anyone
hasn't happened yet, and hence you have not seen it yet.
If anyone wants to buy the movie for me, I'll go ahead and watch it.
There you go. But you said you want to see it. See it right now, right? So that would be a see it in theaters recommendation. Does that sound about right?
Yes. See it now. See it in 5D, 6D, alternate dimension D, string theory D,
big D, all the Ds.
Yes.
Were you guys talking about D's?
Yeah. Watch it in Big D if you can.
Yeah, no, you should absolutely see this in theaters. I have seen this twice now. I think, Henry, you've seen it twice now. I'm not sure what the viewing counts are on
three times.
Isleen and Andrew. You've seen it 3 times now.
Yeah.
Well, fuck me.
Holy shit.
Someone
I've seen it
liked
once.
it pretty well.
I saw it in 3D. That doesn't count.
3D? Triple the D? Oh, that was inappropriate. I'm sorry.
I haven't made that joke.
I say, like, as soon as he said it, I was like, oh, he's going to feel bad about that, isn't he?
Immediately. I
But
retracted
it's
it
fine.
immediately.
It's fine. I think it would have been fine, but you retracted it. Now you just made it awkward. But it's fine. Yeah. As
Can I
was
talk about my
as-
movies now? Can I talk about it now?
As I was saying, see it in theaters any way you can. Yes, Andrew, it is now spoiler time. Would you like to bring in special guest Macho Man Randy Savage, or would you like to bring in special guest King Bobby B to bring us into spoilers?
Fucking King Bobby B. I'm going to bring in big King Bobby B.
Full spoilers for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You shits.
Actually, it'd be appropriate if you brought in Macho Man Randy Savage, because he was in the first Spider-Man.
Ah, fuck it, I'm leaving anyway. Full spoilers for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
You're going nowhere.
What are you doing up there?
That's good. Anyways,
Yes,
I
full
have a
spoilers.
question for you guys. So, when Miles was starting to develop his powers and he was sticking to everything, they referenced the comics. Now, maybe this was like an external thing. This was brought up to me actually by somebody else who watched the movie, who really liked the movie. I will say they really enjoyed it, but they brought this up to me and I didn't have a good answer for him. And it's maybe because the comic, when they pull back and they say, "Hey, let me explain this to you," or whatever. It may have been that like external, that third wall being broke. I don't know, but before it was recognized that Peter Parker had died and that he was Spider-Man, they were referencing Peter Parker exploring his powers through comic books while Miles Morales was sticking to shit. You know what I'm talking about?
Not exactly.
I have an answer to this question.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I understand the question.
Okay, good deal. Go ahead.
So basically, Miles, as he's exploring his powers, sees in the comics the true life tales of Spider-Man. It's not Amazing Fantasy. It's the same cover, but it's basically him seeing Peter Parker's origin story and thinking, hey, fuck, I'm now Spider-Man too. Like, I'm going through the exact same things. That's what you're talking about, right?
Right. And nobody else is drawing
your question is just like, wait, why are people surprised that Peter Parker is Spider-Man? Clearly, if there's comic books made about this, then that should not be a surprise to anyone, right? That's
Exactly.
the question.
Right.
So the answer to that is actually explained courtesy of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, producers of this film, courtesy of the Empire Film Podcast. They actually said that so basically it's the true life tales of Spider-Man in the sense that it's adapted from like Peter's actual origin story, but within the comic book, within Miles' universe, they don't actually know his secret identity, so he's actually someone called Billy Barker and not Peter Parker, I think is the names that they used. So there's a fictionalized version of Peter Parker. Like, so the presumption is that Peter told, someone like, hey, this is what actually happened, and then it got written and it got drawn and stuff like that, but the world at large doesn't actually know who Peter is, but they've been able to, make these comic books about him, and they probably made movies and stuff like that about him too. So that's the answer. Does that
Exactly.
I understand what
does
you're
that
saying.
square?
Okay. That's fine.
So they did think about that. It's a good question. It's a good question.
Well, that was my only question, I think. That's my only question.
So, well, we're in spoilers now. So, I actually, before we really get more to some of the big story details, which I think there's a good amount to cover, I wanted to talk about the Stan Lee tribute to this, within this movie, which there is the cameo, the expected cameo, and unfortunately, Stan Lee passed away not too long ago. We talked about it on this podcast, and obviously this movie was made prior to him passing away. Obviously, the cameo was, generally made with obviously not the expectation that he was going to pass away.
Can we include
right before this movie came away?
I forgot.
Yes, absolutely. Who absolutely is considered, he is part of the kind of tribute that we get at the end. But we get the Stan Lee cameo, and it's a great moment, especially, and it's kind of taken on the special significance. But then there's the quote at the end.
Oh my goodness! Did it make you cry? Because it kind of made me cry a little bit.
It definitely made me tear up, and I actually
good.
I actually wrote it down here because I wanted to say it out loud because I think it's worth saying it loud for anyone that just maybe happened to not stay long enough to see it. Which there's a post-credits scene, so shame on you. But I wanted to say it, and I'm going to say it now. That person who helps others simply because it should or must be done, and because it is the right thing to do, is indeed without a doubt a real superhero. So that's the quote attributed to Stan Lee, and then there's also another kind of thing right after that says, "Thank you, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, for telling us we aren't the only ones." So,
isn't that really touching, dude? Isn't that really fucking nice?
And I think that it's such a heartfelt message, and it's a beautiful tribute. But I think it also speaks to the mindset of the creative team behind this film. Like, it's no surprise to me that people that feel that sort of reverence for these two individuals that have kind of changed probably their lives in this meaningful way, to tell a story that can then change other people's lives in another meaningful way as a result of kind of what was, set before them. And I think it's really beautiful. I think it's a really, really beautiful message that they have there at the end.
And what I really liked
absolutely a fitting tribute.
I liked about, what I really liked about that quote was throughout the entire movie, it was every time he met another Spider-Man. Oh, you're not the only one? You're not the only one? I'm not the only one? And
You're like me.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I don't know, every time that was said, that was so, I don't know, it felt very prominent the entire time it was said. It's a very touching movie. It's I don't know, man. Hit you right in the feels. I don't know if he hit you in the feels, but I feel like every time I watch a goddamn cartoon, I get emotional. Every single time. It doesn't matter what cartoon it is. I don't know what it is.
I think this movie for me hit me in the feels. I would say a couple times.
Yeah. All right, good.
I would say so.
Good. I'm not alone. I'm not the only one.
You're not the only one, Andrew. You're not the only one. No, that Stan Lee cameo, I think it was just about perfect. Obviously, as you said, they didn't know he was going to pass, but just having him hand Miles the mask and the costume that he would use for part of the movie, and then saying, Miles asked him, what if it doesn't fit? And he says it eventually fits or something like that. And even though there was a joke on that, having that happen right after Spider-Man dies was just so perfect. I felt like this was a movie of Peter handing off the torch to Miles, but also a little bit of Stan Lee kind of handing off his reins to the rest of these creators.
Stan Lee was the one who originally approved Miles Morales as being Afro-Latino.
Afro-Latino.
As well, so it's very fitting that he says, this will fit you, don't worry.
Yeah, and it's actually an appropriate message because Miles Morales is obviously, Stan Lee obviously, as you say, kind of signed off on it, but it's a more modern creation from people that, probably would not have been in the comic book industry if it were not for the contributions of Stan Lee and the people of that generation. So Brian Michael Bendis, Sarah Pichelli were the creators of Miles Morales, and they kind of get their own nods throughout the movie. I think they're both in Miles' phone book. But like, it all leads back to Stan Lee.
Any other Easter eggs for the cell phone contacts? I saw Bendis. I saw Lee.
Ditko.
Yeah. I think it seemed like they were all comic book creators, so I would have to.
I didn't see it.
Hey, let me ask you guys. I don't know about all those references. I do know one reference though. He is dancing in the beginning, just like Spider-Man 3, which was pretty fucking great.
There is a lot of Raimi references in the beginning,
which was nice.
I think the understanding was that it's kind of a riff on the Raimi. It's not literally intended to be the Raimi Spider-Man. They actually pointed something out which I didn't catch when I was listening to Lord Miller, who are the producers on this. One of them is co-writer. The MJ Spider-Man kiss is actually a role reversal.
Yeah, it is a reversal. I noticed that.
I thought that was pretty funny, where MJ was actually the one upside down.
I thought that was
pretty
because it was supposed to be that Miles Morales' universe, Spider-Man was supposed to be the perfect one. He's not just perfect, he's also blonde. Whereas your Peter B. Parker was bad at things. He's brunette and fat. thick.
He's thick.
He's in a different shape.
THICC, you know what I'm saying?
While we're on the subject of kind of the prime Spider-Man, the prop, the best version of Peter Parker, Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Who'd have thunk it? Coming in to voice him. I had no idea. Idea until I saw it after the fact. I think. Yeah, I think a lot of people like me assumed that it was just Jake Johnson doing just like a superhero voice or something like that, and then he was just going to be schlocky, whatever, loser Peter Parker for the rest of the movie, or something. But no, that's a good get. It's a good get. It's another Chris added to the Marvel-verse.
Let's talk about the character development on all three major characters.
Well, all of them, yeah. And the Chris Pine, that Peter Parker is very integral to Miles, obviously, as kind of our main character. He is the impetus for him, kind of, really, for pretty much him developing from, I have no interest in doing this thing, to, oh shit, I can be trained as Spider-Man and I can do the thing. I can take the goober and, put it in the doohickey or whatever. So, yeah, no, I found it interesting, as an aside, that they chose to kind of do a kind of truncated version of the Peter Parker dying storyline to kind of have that spark for Miles to think that I'm now going to be the Spider-Man of this universe. And obviously that's pretty much Miles' entire struggle through the whole movie. As the central character, there's so much heart to that character, and I feel like it's a different flavor of Spider-Man than we kind of typically get. It's usually there's Aunt May and then there's a dead uncle, which because technically they do have that in common.
Yeah.
But he's a little bit of a different riff on that in the sense that he's got a mom and a dad who he has a pretty good relationship with. Sometimes contentious with his dad, but that's a different flavor in and of itself. The relationship he has with his uncle is a very different flavor than what Peter and Uncle Ben have. There's just a lot of kind of different shades to it, but it's all kind of different riffs on that core that makes a Spider-Man a Spider-Man. They all have, and they touch on that a lot in the movie, where everyone's kind of got their thing that pushes them into being the Spider-Man that they were meant to be in their respective dimension or whatever like that. But Miles, we get a lot of focus on because he's our main character. So, but what did you guys think about Miles as a character, as the main character? Did you feel like you got what you wanted with him?
Oh yeah, no, I thought he was very interesting. They made him seem like a real kid in just the fights he has with his parents. How he's more in sync with his uncle, who's kind of seems cooler. He does graffiti art. And he doesn't want to be at the school. He wants to be at the school that he was before. He already has all these friends. No, they made him very interesting, but they kept him the essentials of Spider-Man still within him. And they just found a way to separate him from Peter Parker while still making him Spider-Man.
On the deep end, his reactions to death and violence were very real. And it didn't glorify it in any way. I thought he was more compelling like that.
That's a good point. That's all I got.
Well stated,
about the
my
other
friend.
Characters?
Yeah, the other characters.
Peter B. Parker.
I'm sorry. I thought that I did read that there was a specific reaction that Miles is supposed to be the opposite to the original Peter Parker, because Peter Parker's all excited that he can be Spider-Man, he can go and do these superhero things, whereas Miles is horrified.
Well,
Sure he doesn't.
it's a totally normal spider. Totally normal spider. It's fine. This is fine. There is that kind of opposition to it, and I feel like that does a good job of kind of founding where his character is, and maybe there's something within him that's kind of hesitant to kind of take on the mantle, in the sense that he kind of struggles with his powers at first, and to take that, quote unquote leap of faith that they talk about within the movie. There's a lot of hesitancy there, even more so, especially more so than kind of what we see of the Peter, really any version of Peter Parker that we've seen. That's kind of more just like, sweet, I have these powers, like I can now use these. Miles is just like, not for me.
Let me ask you guys a question. I'm gonna cut you off a little bit.
It's just full of questions today.
Does Miles Morales in the comics turn invisible and have electrical powers?
I'm pretty sure, but I actually haven't read the Miles.
Yeah, my understanding is yes. I think that's all from the
I
comics.
think so.
But I'm not sure if he has his own web shooters. I don't know how they resolve that in the comics.
Good question.
So that's another question, but I don't think Aunt May made it for him. I'm pretty sure that is not the case.
Let's talk about fucking Aunt May. That bitch is badass.
She was badass, yeah.
It's about time you come down here and get your
spider
suit.
She is a Spider-Man in one of the Spider-Verses, which I would be excited for.
There you go, Sony spinoff.
I was waiting for that. You know that lady from the cartoons? You know what I'm talking about? You know which one I'm talking about?
Which lady?
No.
There's a lady that's got like a spider butt, and she's up there, and I think she might be blind. I don't know, but she's in the comic books. Spider-Man takes a trip on a rocket or something up into space.
Yep. And Madam Web.
Is it Madam Web? I think it might be. Yeah, I think it might be Madam Web.
Yeah, he's kind of like going. Yeah, that's like when the '90s animated series went all fucking trippy and crazy and shit.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about. Maybe that might be Aunt May in the future. I don't know.
May Web.
Just let me sit in this corner over here in the closet.
All right, we'll let you do your thing.
Right.
Aunt May, Aunt May was. It was interesting to see that riff on Aunt May, where she was obviously kind of had an active life or an active role in the Spider-Man lifestyle, which she's usually either clueless or pretends to be clueless. That's kind of more the extent of her character that we kind of typically get. But let's talk about Peter B. Parker. This is the Jake Johnson iteration of Spider-Man, the little bit flabby version of Spider-Man, and he's interesting because he is someone that seems to be still pretty adept at being Spider-Man, but someone that obviously many years into his life kind of found that he could not properly balance the responsibilities of both Peter Parker and of Spider-Man. He's, I believe, divorced from MJ, I think was the implication.
Yeah, they got a divorce. Yeah, they weren't very happy with each other.
He's a little overweight. He enjoys his pizza a little too much, which I respect that. I respect that decision.
He was a sad man.
It's New York pizza too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of, in some ways, kind of a shell of probably what he once was in his own dimension. I think his Aunt May has died in his own dimension as well. So he's basically alone in the world, and at the beginning of the story he's just like, fuck this, I just want to go back to my own world. I don't want kids, I don't want I don't want any responsibility whatsoever. I'm done with this. And then he goes on a bit of a journey. As many of the characters in this have. I guess probably the principal trio have really their own kind of journeys in their own sort of way, and his is kind of reflecting on the things that have gone wrong and saying, hey, what can I do to fix this? And obviously there's a hesitancy where he's like, I'm going to stay behind and change this dimension and make everything's fine. It doesn't matter if I die. No big loss or whatever is kind of the vibe I got from that. But it's really touching, kind of the arc that he takes through. I mean, Miles, obviously, as the principal character, you expect to have that sort of connection with your main character. Otherwise, typically things don't work very well for your movie, but this is a movie I think that succeeds at least 3 times in terms of making you connect with its characters, and I think that Peter B. Parker is another prime example of that.
But he's not the only one. The dad is a character that's got a integral part in that development. I mean, every I don't know, man. It's just very complete, and every person or every character that they present has a very believable and thorough arc that they go through. And it feels, I don't know, you can feel for every single one of them. You can feel for Aunt May, you can feel for Miles' dad, you can feel for Miles, you can feel for Gwen Stacy, you can feel for fucking Peter B. Parker. They're all really good. You can even feel for fucking Fisk. You know? I mean...
Fisk was the only weak one, I thought.
Yeah, well, you know,
When I was a boy...
The only point he was doing that machine was to try to reconnect with the family that died, you know? I mean, he was...
I know Henrique and I were talking about this. Did he re-traumatize a new set of
I
mom
think
and
so.
kid?
It seemed like it was multiple
He had
sets.
a really fucked up plan. He's just stealing Vanessa and his son from a different dimension.
it's pretty
and
fucked up.
And stealing them.
He's like
messed
the
up.
epitome of
I feel like we're talking
supervillain.
about the wrong thing with Kingpin. Let me cut you off.
His shoulders.
How did he fit into the fucking SUV? How? I don't understand.
Yeah, he was designed a little funny. I will say
He was
that.
Where's
he
that
was an
2%
absolute
body fat?
unit.
What about fucking Doc Ock?
Doc
Oh, that
Ock
was
should
cool.
always be Olivia.
Yeah, that was some cool shit there, buddy. I tell you, that was cool.
Really fun.
That for me, the first time I watched it was one of my favorite reveals because I had absolutely no idea that any version of Octavius was going to be.
And the way
the
the way the arms were, those arms
They
were really neat.
Yeah, they were really
it was
neat.
awesome.
Yeah, it was. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
that was. Yeah, no, that was. That's probably one of my favorite iterations of Octavius, which was, I think, one of the most quintessential Spidey villains. Period. So I feel like that says a lot in and of itself.
You don't miss Electro?
I mean, Electro's fine when he's not of the blue Jamie Foxx variety, and less said about that movie, the better.
Yeah.
Wow, I like what's his face is the Rhino. That's my favorite.
Oh, jeez, Paul Giamatti.
I am the Rhino.
Let's not re-traumatize the listeners.
You want to do an Amazing Spider-Man bonus episode?
Oh,
Little duology.
And to be honest with you, to be complete with it, honest with everybody, I haven't seen those movies in their entirety.
Well, I will not. Even if we got a generous benefactor that said, I will only contribute $100 on the basis of you doing an Amazing Spider-Man.
Well, let's be honest, I'd probably
episode.
fucking do it in that case.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I can't finish that thought. I probably would. You're right. I'm shameless. We're both shameless, but still, it would be tough. It would be tough. But we'd have some good times, spending some, spitting some savagery on it. So,
No.
yeah.
Kind of going back to the Kingpin bit, I think one of the things that makes the story a little bit it just feels emptier is just because getting off of Daredevil, where you get the perfect interpretation of Kingpin, you do have a nice story for him, but since you have so many heroes to dedicate your film to, I feel like they just couldn't give him as much of his own story. But he still made a good villain overall.
I think they gave enough with the very brief flashback to give you just enough of a sense of his character to understand why he's doing the things he's doing. He's obviously extremely misguided in what he's doing, and certainly lacking a lot of the depth that we see in the D'Onofrio Kingpin from Daredevil. But yeah, I think they did enough. I mean, most of the other characters that you see are kind of just bruiser types.
What about the Uncle,
Goblin? We can get into that in a second. But I mean, the Green Goblin is just kind of the hulking mass, the ultimate goblin that's just a monster, basically. Tombstone's basically in the background doing nothing, getting his ass kicked by Aunt May here and there.
Yeah.
But the Prowler.
But the Prowler
Prowler's
is the other
standout
one.
villain.
He's I think he is the big villain in this movie. Absolutely. I think he's the one that they spent a lot of time with, obviously both in and out of the suit, and he's the one.
He's the Uncle Ben.
He is absolutely the Uncle Ben for Miles.
But he's also the
if you want
villain.
to kind of put it as that. But it's interesting because it's, Uncle Ben is obviously this big kind of mentor, this big role model for Peter Parker, and in basically every version of him that we see. But here, Uncle Aaron is kind of this cool guy that, lets Miles kind of be the person he wants to be instead of kind of being put in this box that his parents want to put him into. And And then you got on this other side, he's this big bad prowler who has
really
this fucking has this terrifying theme song, which is very Annihilation-esque, which I enjoy a lot, as a side note. But yeah, that kind of that dichotomy in the character is really, really fascinating, and it creates. Obviously, it builds to a head with that kind of climactic moment on the rooftop of Aunt May's roof, and it's just
fucking dichotomy. That's a good word.
It's heartbreaking to kind of witness that moment. It really is.
Did you feel that Jeff knew Aaron was the Prowler? Or a vigilante?
I don't know. That's a good question. I thought about that because he doesn't seem like super shocked when he sees him in the alleyway, but at the same time, it's also very explainable as he sees his brother, dead in an alleyway. And
I think he knows his brother is not a good. Yeah.
He's obviously aware that his brother is. He's not quote unquote a good person or whatever.
Right.
He's obviously. And, even Aaron kind of alludes to the fact that, he and Miles' dad kind of, did some shady shit back in the day, back in the day together. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
but he obviously trusts Miles enough to be around him. So maybe he didn't.
Yeah, I would say no, in the sense that, like, if he knew that he was someone like capable of working with the Kingpin and kind of wreaking all sort of havoc in the way that he did, I would say that he probably wouldn't let Miles associate with him whatsoever. So I'd say maybe he has a suspicion, but not full blown, like, is aware of it.
Do you think there was a cutout scene, maybe where his dad was certain that the new Spider-Man had killed his brother? It just seemed to be that they glossed over that point at the very end.
It's possible, yeah. I mean, because there's just kind of the, he sees Spider-Man in the alleyway with them, and it just jumps to conclusions at that point.
I don't know how you could misinterpret that. It's this very badly dressed up little spider kid crying over his brother.
And there's a gunshot wound that like you can clearly tell that it's a gunshot wound, I would imagine. So,
well, I mean, at that point, he did not see a gunshot wound.
Emotions can cloud your judgment too. So I think it's probably more
dead,
that.
And they're fucking. See, he already doesn't like Spider-Man, So fuck Spider-Man. That guy. At the very least, he's associated with the death of my brother.
Right.
So I don't know. I did really enjoy his dad's arc, though. And I enjoyed the relationship between him and Miles. I thought that was really... it
was really touching.
It was really touching. And I don't know, man. I think a lot of shit in this movie was really touching. I think.
Yeah, no, this film had a lot of heart. And they didn't have one single speech like the responsibility line that Uncle Ben had, but I feel like he had a few speeches throughout that urged him, coming from Stan Lee.
Yeah.
The when his dad comes to his dorm room, and even his uncle.
Yeah, through the closed door. That was really fucking sad.
Yeah, that was a really nice speech.
When he's taped to the chair and he couldn't do anything, he just had to listen to his dad. Oh, yeah, so good.
I feel like kind of, Great Expectations was kind of the encapsulation of that type of speech for Miles, but it was different in the sense that it wasn't one character kind of just, with great power comes great responsibility. It was every kind of character that he encounters throughout the movie kind of giving him some different flavor of that, and then it's him kind of coming to the realization by the end, by the third act, of like, hey, fuck, I have this in me, And I think that's what makes it so interesting. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Peter B even says, "Don't finish it."
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
When he blows off all the spider webs and he just says, "Fuck it, I'm going for it." It was so rewarding. So much. I don't know, man. It was a very good fucking movie. I know I keep just saying that. Like
the fallback.
What about the? Was it? It kind of looked like a Rage Against the Machine graffiti up on the wall in the sewer. You know what I'm talking about?
That was awesome looking.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking cool. I really like that. I really liked this whole movie a whole lot. I know we already gave our recommendations, but I already had my question answered.
Oh, you've had multiple questions answered, my friend.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm feeling pretty content.
Let me pose a question to you all, and I feel like we've been kind of dancing around it. How did you guys feel about one Gwen Stacy, aka Spider-Woman, in this film?
I loved her. She was great.
I thought she was pretty good.
She's at the top of her game. For a young person, she's exactly what Miles can look up to. She's also young. She's, at least enough of an age to go to his school. And yet she's already got it figured out. She's got her powers figured out. She's already got the Peter Parker arc, the interesting role reversal done. And yet I did really enjoy that she still had to be saved from a fall by Miles Morales. I thought that was a great nod.
But he caught her.
He did.
Yeah.
The hero. That hero.
I really liked Gwanda character. Gwanda from South Africa without no accent. No, I thought she was really funny. She played off Miles really well. And just like you were saying, she's like what Miles could be in the future, but she's not so far ahead where she's gone through Peter B. Parker's arc where he's had so much of his life fall apart because he couldn't balance Spider-Man and his real Peter Parker life.
That's true. She's kind of like fresh, isn't she?
Yeah, she's like, probably near the peak of her game, very experienced,
right,
but still very young. And she's just different enough that makes it really interesting. Like, as soon as she comes in, you're just like, oh yeah, like the rock music starts playing, and then she's like, swoop, 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 and then it was awesome.
It's cool.
So we talked about a couple times that we teared up, right?
Well,
yeah, it was a couple.
All right.
This the first time I saw it, this was at least one of the times that it happened. I am a big Spider-Gwen fanboy. All the way back from Edge of Spider-Verse #2 through the Latour Robbie Rodriguez run, both runs they did like 6 issues, then they relaunched it under the all different Marvel bullshit kind of thing that they did. I know I don't think I've read like the last few. I know they've done Gwenom and stuff like that, so I'm a little bit behind, but from like what I've read, they covered enough ground that a lot of it was familiar, like her saving her dad, that was straight from the comics. All the stuff with Peter as the lizard, very briefly shown in like a shadow, like, you might not even see what the hell's going on there, but I was just like Gwen's made the big time. Like, it was the moment for me.
Peter Parker was
just
the lizard in the Gwen.
He was.
Yeah.
And so was Harry.
Oh, that's fucking cool.
And he takes it because he wants to be like Gwen, or I guess like Spider-Woman. Mm-hmm. And he admires her. He really wants to be a hero like her. So he pushes
himself and then makes like the lizard stuff. And
yeah. And then he dies.
By who? Himself?
I think
the formula.
Yeah. I think the formula just kind of takes his toll on him, and he ends up dying from it. So it's
she couldn't save him,
right? And so that's her Uncle Ben. Obviously it's shown as such within the movie, but having that kind of depth of knowledge from reading the comic books and seeing that honored in the movie, I was just like, fucking hell! Like,
is Gwen also a dancer?
Her shoes were fucking ballet shoes.
They were gorgeous.
Yeah, as far as I know, she is not within the comic books, but obviously there is that element to the costume.
Different from the classic Gwen Stacy Enter the Spider-Verse #2. I know it shows her with those blue shoes, but they aren't ballet shoes. I like the twist. It was aesthetically very pleasing.
And she made a point to stand on her toes and stuff.
Yeah.
They made a
that animation style.
Right.
Very stylish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, I was really happy with the version of Gwen Stacy that they presented to us. I was very happy. I mean, she obviously got a pretty good role, and she was accepting of friends by the end, so she got in her own little arc. So
as romantic interest at the very end, and then they changed it to just be friends, and then imply strongly that they would be.
Yes, yeah. I kind of saw that they'd kind of tinkered with how much they could how far they wanted to go down with the road with that. Which I think that we'll talk about it momentarily. I think that in terms of sequel bait, I think that's fine. But I felt like for this movie alone, I feel like that maybe would have been one too many things to juggle. And I feel like just kind of having her, becoming friends, I feel like that's a good place to end the movie. And clearly they've got some sort of dimensional phones or some shit. I don't know what's going on, but they're communicating with each other. So there's some implication that they are actually actively communicating friends, if you will. So
let's talk about 2099 Spider-Man. Yeah.
Skip Spider-Ham and Noir and Penny, but okay.
Yeah, Penny Parker is pretty great. So it's pretty much a dick move.
Anime Spider-Woman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So she had no powers, but she just like
she has a psychic connection with the spider who controls the robot. Who?
Yeah.
I think I'm not. Was the robot created by her father? I think she also debuted in another Edge of Spider-Verse, if I'm not mistaken. I think
she wasn't.
If I want to say,
maybe I don't remember her as well.
I think she was. I think she was just kind of in a one-off thing. And I think Spider-Man Noir, you guys can correct me, you might have better knowledge on this. I think he actually debuted in the Shattered Dimensions game and then later got a solo comic book series.
I didn't know that.
Because I've seen him. I don't think he actually debuted in the comic books. I think he debuted in the games. Which
What
I think
game?
That was a Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. That was the one where you could play, I think, as a regular Spider-Man, as 2099, and I think as Noir.
I
But-
don't fucking have any idea, man.
Yeah.
I just know Nick Cage plays him, and that was great.
Nick Cage did play him. Yeah, that is
Or
very
voiced
true.
him, I guess.
What about Spider-Ham, Peter Parker?
Spider-Ham definitely originates from the comic books.
I loved it. What a great
Yeah, he was
Roger
great.
Rabbit's type nod.
And he had a
Yeah.
hammer. He had that little fucking mallet. That was pretty good. And his little nose matched his eyeballs.
Yeah.
Notice that? Yeah, it was cute.
No, I think the voice actors were really spot on and selected very well for this movie. And I can't think of a better person to play this type of character than John Mulaney. He just has a cartoony voice, and it was perfect for this.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely fitting for that role.
Cartoony
Just
voice.
small correction. Apparently, Noir did debate. He debuted in 2009, which was a year ahead of the game, so it was very close in time. So it's possible that
Close
they were
enough.
kind of developed in tandem. But yeah, but it would make sense that in my brain I'm just like, I don't know what the fuck this character is until that game came out. So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, both he and Gwen are extremely recent characters, and I think Penny again. I think she was from the Edge of Spider-Verse. So it's interesting that a lot of the characters are developed within the past 10 years, if not more recently than that. And, they made the big time, as I said. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are wondering, like, who would be in the future films for this? And then we got that answer probably from the post-credit scene.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well.
2099 Spider-Man.
You had your boy in it.
I would say, yeah.
You had your boy.
Did you notice that, Andrew? Did you notice
boy.
that? That's the question.
Who is it?
Who's your boy?
Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake? Yeah, is it really?
No, it's not Justin Timberlake.
Oh.
It's not Justin Timberlake or his clone, Pedro Pascal. It is your other boy.
Oh, yeah. No, I thought Justin
Black
Timberlake was his other clone.
Black Panther, my boy?
No.
It's not Black Panther.
I got so many boys. I don't know. Johnny
No,
V?
you're-
Johnny
you're-
fucking
you're-
V?
No, you're Star Wars
Johnny
boy.
V.
You're Star Wars boy.
Think of it's not going to help you, but yeah, Star Wars boy.
Star
Think
Wars
Star
boy.
Wars boy. That's good. That's the
Poe
only way they can
Dameron?
help you.
Yeah.
No!
Poe motherfucking Dameron.
Poe motherfucking Dameron is Spider-Man 2099?
Mr. Oscar Isaac is in fact the voice of Spider-Man
love
2099.
it. Yes. Okay. I'm all about it. I was
Didn't
already
catch
all
it the
about
first time around, I'll admit, but when I saw it again, I listened for it and I'm like,
Oh, it's Poe fucking Dameron.
it's
Yes.
Poe Dameron. There's no doubt about it.
That's good.
So the post-credits scene, I think we're at that now.
My feet are
we
asleep.
We get the introduction of Spider-Man 2099, which he feels like kind of like a notable absence from the roster of the movie because he's certainly an older character than some of the characters, the spider people that we see in the movie. but we finally see him, and it's all this one big setup for this fucking fantastic joke where
fantastic.
we go to the 67 cartoon, and the big old debate of who pointed first, which if you ask the J.J. Jonason of that universe, Spider-Man pointed first, voiced by Stan Lee as a side note, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. That
fantastic. Just gold.
That was a fantastic post-credit scene. I was the first time I saw that I was laughing a lot. Let's say that.
Yeah, the person I went to watch the movie with found that less humorous, but that's okay. They didn't really care for that part.
Okay.
We waited for that. Yeah, fuck yeah, we waited for that. That was great.
That was an incredible post-credit scene. Even if you don't know who that character is, it's really funny.
At least it wasn't
When you find the nearest window and defenestrate that person. There is no acceptable alternative.
So what you're saying is don't go see another movie with that person again. That's okay.
I don't know. We're going to have a conversation about this afterward. I need to know who this mysterious person you've identified is, because I'm not feeling them.
Colton, do you remember the people behind us who freaked out when 2099 Miguel O'Hara showed up?
Yeah.
They were freaking out.
I've had, the second time I saw it, there was people a few rows in front of me that were like marking out when fucking, you just saw like part of the costume for 2099. Like,
they lost their shit.
Serious, like Miguel O'Hara kind of, some originalists. Yeah. I mean, I like 29 as much as the next guy, but not enough to like cream my jeans over it. So I don't know.
You creamed your jeans?
No, but the people behind us did.
The people near us did.
Lord have mercy. All right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. But, he is a character that, like...
Cream my jeans.
You don't bring Oscar Isaac in to not bring him back for a sequel, right? You know? I'm confused. Have you never heard this expression, or are you just puzzled by people creaming their jeans over the Mr. 2099?
I've never heard the expression cream my jeans. I think I like that. Huh, goddamn, I'm so excited. Cream my jeans. I'm drunk. I'm sorry.
I mean, you might have if you knew it was Oscar Isaac at the time.
Yeah, I may have creamed my jeans a little bit. Cream my jeans with some Nick Cage. Nick Cage? Oh my God, I cream my jeans.
Okay, I think we're pretty close to the end of the discussion portion of this episode here. So, I'm gonna ask a question of you all. You guys might have some follow-up questions or whatever, but I'm gonna ask what your favorite spider person was in this film.
You guys go first, please.
Spider-Ham does whatever Spider-Man
Spider-Ham, yeah,
can.
Can
He gets bitten by Aunt May in his original universe.
What?
Aunt May is a pig, and she bites a spider. I'm not kidding you. I just learned this today.
So
TIL.
Yeah. So Spider-Ham is in fact actually a spider that mutates into a spider pig, basically. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
My God.
I love it. There's Captain America. There's Bunny Hulk. There's Iron Mouse. I would be pro that franchise.
This is like a whole like comic series?
It is.
And they have like their own series of comics with like all sorts of shit going on?
It was originally a one-off joke that became so much more.
Wow.
Yeah, basically. Right. Yeah.
Okay.
And Spider-Ham, he's been around for a good while. Like, I want to say 80s. Like when they've
been writing comics for Spider-Ham since the 80s?
Well, not consistently.
I think on and off. Like, I think he kind of started in the 80s again as like that kind of joke kind of character, and then they were just like, oh, people like this sort of thing, and they kind of did more with them and kind of got gradually weirder and different with it. So
wow, all right.
So we got to vote for Spider-Ham. Who's up next? Who's got to vote?
You go, Henry.
Oh God, I'm trying to decide between Miles and Peter B. Parker, because I loved how cool and different Miles was, but I also loved where they took Peter Parker's story, just make it a lot more, I guess, realistic in a story about interdimensional traveling.
I'll make your decision easy.
Yeah.
My favorite spider person was, I like Peter B. Parker the most.
It was just such a cool take on Spider-Man. Peter Parker.
He's just I think first and foremost, I think he's just a believable person.
Yeah.
He's lost a lot. He's just fucking
And
down.
he lost it all because of Spider-Man. He couldn't be both Spider-Man and be Peter Parker.
Yeah. I really like that.
But I don't know.
Himself to teach
Miles is. If you're gonna have to take a vote, I might say Miles. But both were. I mean, all of them were great, but I really love those two.
Gwen Stacy's pretty good too. But Peter B. Parker's mine for sure. I like it a lot.
All right. Well, I'm
Relate to it.
I'm casting my vote for Gwen. I got to. I mean,
there we go. Hot damn! All of the Spider people except Nick Cage got voted. I
but
can
he was
say,
good. Let's not forget about Penny. All right, you dickhead.
Chloe Close is in here. Who do you vote for, Chloe Close?
Well, who's Chloe Close? She's
a lot of
Nick Cage fan.
white and black, so maybe Spider-Noir.
Yeah, she's a big Nick Cage fan, so
Yeah.
I think that's a given.
That's my cat. All right. Good deal.
Cat's a big Nick Cage fan, a big Spider-Man Noir fan. You heard it here first.
Fuck you. I voted for Penny. That's what she said. She's looking at me kind of pissed off a little bit.
Well,
Anyways, all right, I don't know who she votes for. She's a cat. She has no voice. Anyways.
Captain America.
all right. The only last thing I wanted to touch on was some sequels and spinoff kind of news that we have. So is there any other final thoughts before we get there?
Nope.
That was a fantastic movie.
Let's talk about some sequel and spinoff news then. So early word broke before this movie actually came out that a sequel and a spinoff were in the works from Sony, which typical Sony fashion, let's make 17 movies before we even figure out what the fuck we even have on our hands. Worked out well for him this time. Morbius, I'm less sold on, but we've talked about it, so I guess we don't need to beat that dead horse for this episode. So the sequel is obviously going to be Miles-centric, but the word on the street, courtesy of Amy Pascal, one of the producers of this film, also a notorious sandwich thrower, is... No one laughed at that, but she threw a sandwich. She threw a... so there's a... I want to get off base here. There was...
We all looked at each other like, what the fuck?
So there was, remember when the interview came out with James Franco and Seth Rogen, and then there was this big whole thing with North Korea, like, fucking hacking the Sony emails?
Yeah.
There was a bunch of emails that leaked, and one of which contained the information that, like, Amy Pascal got very upset in like, a meeting, and she decided to throw a sandwich at someone that was, like, across the table. I don't remember what the meeting was about, but anyone that throws a sandwich at someone during a meeting is not to be fucked with. So Amy Pascal, the notorious sandwich thrower, to close the loop there, she is a producer on this film. She basically had an interview where she talked about kind of some directions that they're planning on going with these characters, with other kind of movies tied to this, and the sequel is going to reportedly feature a Miles and Gwen romance, so kind of a continuation of their friendship taken to the next level, perhaps, which has its roots in the comic books. I know they did that relatively recently, I think within the past year or two. I don't know what the latest is on that, but there was clear, I think, overtures towards that within the movie, even though they didn't ultimately end up with, kind of a big romantic kiss or whatever like that. I feel like it was kind of building towards that, so that seems like a pretty natural, I think, escalation of where it was. So I'm good with that. But I think the real news is that Spider-Gwen is going to be the lead character in a spinoff of her own, where she will team up. She will team up with the likes of another Spider-Woman in the form of Jessica Drew, and a sort of another Spider-Woman in the form of Silk, aka Cindy Moon. Which I guess is technically usually said the other way, who we talked about earlier in this episode. So closing another loop.
And they had that Spider-Women crossover in the comics.
They did, which
kind of
is
recently.
kind of yeah. That was about as. I think I read a little bit after that in terms of the Spider-Woman comics, so that's about where I am. So that was probably a year and a half ago at least. Probably longer than that actually. Probably like 4 years ago. I don't remember actually when it was, but for some reason that seems like it was a long time ago, and my sense of time is all sorts of wacky. So those three together are so much fun. If they do anything close to that comic book crossover, it's going to be fucking fantastic. I'm so on board with that. I'm really on board with the sequel. This is a movie that, I don't know, it's a hard act to top, I will say that, but there's absolutely no reason why you can't make more movies in this same vein. Animation style can be consistent. I mean, I'm sure you can do things to make it different and exciting and interesting and new again, but like, hell yes. Like, no more Morbius. Get Jared Leto and put him on the street. I don't give a fuck about that guy. Make more of this. Channel all the money that you're paying Jared Leto into another one of these. You know what I mean? Is that a hot take? I don't think that's a hot take.
That's what I
fuck
want to
that
say.
guy. Come on. It's disgusting. And like use condoms and shit. Like, Jesus Christ, dude. Come on. You're not the Joker. You're fucking Jared Leto. You're the lead singer of 30 Seconds to Mars. Who are you fucking kidding?
No, there's a lot of room to take sequels in, so please make them. Sony, please.
So sequel spinoffs, you guys fans of what has been proposed by the notorious sandwich thrower, Amy Pascal? I'm just saying that since I already explained the story, I'm just keeping that in there.
Oh yeah,
also,
but
those fucking sandwiches. But anyway,
but also bring in $20.99 since you teased
the
them.
waste of a sandwich. You could have eaten it.
Well, I mean, I would throw it and then I would probably still eat it.
No one.
Yeah, but if you throw it at someone you don't like, why would you eat it then? It's disgusting. It's got their stink all over it.
It's got their stank.
That's a weird thing to throw.
The sandwich?
Like throw a pen, maybe.
Yeah.
Throw a pen at someone, like.
You'd have to be fucking pissed to throw a sandwich.
Yeah, that's some serious shit.
Like, I just make the sandwich and then you say something off the wall. Like, I'm not going to grab a pen.
Sandwich.
I'm just going to fucking throw the sandwich. Fuck you. Throw a sandwich.
You bring a sandwich in a meeting, surely you've got the intention of eating the sandwich. So to give up something that you're willing to eat, like, that's some serious fucking dedication. Like, you've been seriously agitated by what something has been said to you. That's some wild shit, man.
Wild shit. Heard it here first. Wild shit.
Don't throw sandwiches, folks. It's uncouth. Yeah. So, any last minute thoughts?
That's all I got.
Bring it on.
Bring it on, he says. All right, let's do a very somewhat truncated version of catching up because we've been running long. Anyone have some big things they want to shout out? Let's not get, again, super lengthy with this, but any movies, TV shows, video games, anything you've been up to lately? Maybe books. Maybe someone reads
what you
books
got, Andrew?
on this podcast.
About a bunch of movies. I was drunk when I bought them. I watched The Meg recently, and that was okay. It was just... yeah, could have gone without watching it. It was okay. I did watch some Studio Ghibli movies. I watched the one with the borrowers. I think it's, I don't want to mispronounce it. Arriety? Something like that. Yeah, Princess Arriety or something like that.
Is it the Secret of Arriety?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, something like that. And it was really good. It was really good. I also watched Kiki's Delivery Service. And that was exceptional. That made me cry a little bit. Not cry. Cry sounds like I wept. I did not. I did not weep.
We watched that too.
I'm a man. I do not weep.
I do not weep. Right. I just got a little teary eyed.
It sounded a little defensive there.
It was very good. What else have I watched? I feel like I've watched a couple things. I had been playing the shit out of Civilization 6 on the Switch.
Yes.
And I brought...
Which by the way, went on sale for like $15 off very recently. I just wanted you to know.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's a little humor in that.
Right. Thanks. I also recently went to a family Christmas and I got Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And I've got Mario Party, both of which I'm very excited to play. I'm an avid Mario Party. Mario Party.
You heard it here first.
Gross.
I'm a fan of both of those games. So we'll see what happens with those. What else have I watched? I feel like I've watched a bunch of shit.
All right, well, you can think about it later. You got too much shit, man. We're gonna be here all night. If you listen to your ass.
Yeah. What about you?
I have a couple things to talk about. Smash. I also picked up Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. I've devoted many hours to it. Some during the finals period that I probably should not have devoted to it, but it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't think about it too much. Having a lot of fun with it. Finally started the single player kind of component to it, and it's Smash Brothers. I mean, Smash Brothers with like 70 plus characters. It's great. I'm really enjoying it. I also, with you, Henry, watched Widows.
That's right.
I guess probably would have been a couple of weeks ago, and I enjoyed that a lot. I feel like we didn't talk about it too much, but it's a really well made film. It's Steve McQueen is the director of that. He did Hunger and Shame with Michael Fassbender, and he did 12 Years a Slave with Chiwetel Ejiofor. And it's I think a different flavor to that. It feels a little bit more blockbuster, a little bit more popcorn movie-esque than certainly any of those movies were. But I enjoyed it a lot. Really strong cast in it. Was it Viola Davis, Elizabeth Debicki, Michelle Rodriguez, and Liam Neeson? John Bernthal's in it for like, I think, a second.
Yeah.
That's his role. John Bernthal's in things for like a second and then he disappears. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So I would recommend that. I don't know if it's still playing, but it was good. I enjoyed that a lot. I've been into a couple other things, but for the sake of brevity, I will put those in my back pocket and talk about them another time. Henry, Isleen, you guys have anything you want to shout out?
I'm going to give some love to some of the indie hits like Celeste, Gris, and I'm playing Hollow Knight right now. All of these are great games.
Gris?
Gris, yeah.
Is that the really fancy art one?
It's gorgeous. The art is
yes.
beautiful.
Okay, I've been looking at buying that one, but I didn't know if it was going to be fun.
Do it.
Oh, it looks so good.
It's beautiful.
All right. Yes. Okay. Sold. Sorry.
Nice. No, agreed with Widows. It was fun, but also tense and exciting. Really good stuff. What else? I saw Creed 2 a couple times. I know you guys covered in another episode, but also recommend that. I watched Green Book, which I would recommend too. It's another Mahershala Ali film. It's a feel good movie about race. So if you don't want something too heavy, that's still fine. Been playing a lot of Super Smash. Just unlocked all the characters today, and been traveling around the U.S. a lot for interviews. So mostly on the East Coast, but thankfully the Switch is portable, so I can play me some Smash.
Hats off to you, Nintendo, for being forward thinking. Where's our paycheck? I'm expecting it now. All right. Anything else from anyone?
No, that's it.
No, man.
Time to go to
All
bed.
right.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Happy New Year.
Yes. All of the above. Thank you all for listening. Again, depending on when this is coming out, when you listen to it, it will be somewhere around the Christmas time. Might be closer in the years, so in which case, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, Happy anything related to anything in this time period. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. We would appreciate any support that you guys can lend to us. We talked...
Well, I have one last shout out.
Yeah, go ahead.
To a fan. I met up with our friend David Clark up in NYC. Oh. And he was talking about the podcast. So
he was talking about this podcast?
Yeah, this podcast.
Holy shit. What's he say about this podcast? He enjoys it?
He says he enjoys it. He was looking forward to whatever would be the next one. And if I'd be in it.
That's cool. All right.
So shout out to you, David.
Shout out to you, David. David,
appreciate
thanks for listening. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool.
I can't believe people want to hear what I say.
I feel like people should be more excited to hear what Andrew has to say than I am. I feel like I'm kind of, I got a little bit of formula to what I say. Andrew, he's a fucking loose cannon. He's a fucking loose cannon.
Wild card.
He's the absolute wild card. He's the wild card, bitches. So I don't think this show would work without you, Andrew. I mean, I'm being honest. We're two peas in a pod, man.
2 peas in a motherfucking pod. All right.
It's our tagline. If you enjoy us so much that you would like to financially contribute to us, you have the option to do so through our Patreon. If you head to our if you would head to our website, which is watchreviewrepeat.com, click the premium tab and then click the become a patron button. $2 a month gets you access to all of our bonus episodes that we do, which are timed exclusive for our supporters on Patreon, and you get early access to our regular episodes as well. So our current bonus episode that we have up there now, which has been up there for week and a half-ish, is the Trilogia de Guillermo del Toro, which is an episode on 3 movies from director Guillermo del Toro: Kronos, The Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth. 3 fucking excellent films. Let me say that right off the bat. I don't want to spoil the episode for you. There's plenty more coverage for you to listen to, but I think you'd be doing yourself a big disservice to not listen to that. To not watch those movies and then listen to that. So do it in that order. Website, as I mentioned, is watchreviewrepeat.com. If you'd like to follow us on our socials, we are at WRRPod on Twitter. You can follow us on Facebook or like us, whatever the fuck the terminology is for that. We are on Gmail. If you'd like to send us any questions, comments, or suggestions, that is watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. And before we talk about what we're going to do next, I would like to say a special thank you to both Henry and Isleen for joining us on this episode. Putting up for... I feel like I'm usually the sober one and Andrew's usually the drunk one, but now there's just 2 of us, and it's just out of hand. It's just out of hand.
Welcome to the jungle, as they say.
I could barely finish a sentence without fucking up a word. So I'm like, oh God, is this what life is normally like for Andrew? What do I do? But no, I do mean that. I do mean thank you all for joining us. And I feel like it was a good movie to talk about. So I feel like the timing could not have been better. So thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And with that, our next episode is actually a little uncertain. Andrew is going on vacation a little bit after Christmas. We're hoping to try to record an episode or 2 before he runs off to do fun things. And so hopefully we'll have some stored up that we can kind of put out, while he's gone. But
we'll see what happens.
There's a whole mess of movies that came out around Christmas time. Aquaman, Bumblebee, Mary Poppins, Vice. So we're going to try to see some things and record on them, but I make no promises on what it's going to be or what we can even do. So,
and then we will
tuned.
have our infamous infamous 2018 episode.
Yeah, we're gonna do a year in review again, and it'll be fun. I look forward to talking about that. I feel like I have to rewatch some movies.
Yeah, so it'll be a
movies, so
interesting beginning of the year for sure.
Yeah, we've got we're coming off hiatus, and the hope is that we can get some more regular content out for the next little while here. So that's the plan. Look forward to some new episodes, and until then, we say,
Ladies on the men, Jay.